Chapter 11:10. Hearing Zhang Xiaobao's words, except for Wang Wan. The others all looked at Zhang Xiaobao in puzzlement. Gao Lisher thought for a while, but he still couldn't figure it out, so he asked, Xiaobao, can the Tang Empire be peaceful? Keep the Japanese and treat them well, and don't occupy Japan? Didn't you say that you and Cuckoo would solve the problem of Japan within this year? Empress Wang and the others also nodded, waiting for Zhang Xiaobao's explanation. Zhang Xiaobao glanced at Wang Wan, and Wang Wan said, it is precisely because we want to occupy Japan that we have to keep the Japanese. As for the Japanese laborers who come later as compensation, we have to treat them as the people of the Tang Empire. Although it is impossible to build a railway without death, we have to take care of them in terms of life. We need to feed and clothe them the same as when the Great Tang built the railroad from Luoyang to the capital. We don't want them to tire out or starve. We also need to provide them with nutrition and medical care. They are used as compensation in exchange for coming to the Tang Empire. The Japanese can consider how they will be treated after coming to the Tang Empire. To be precise, the Japanese think that they will be treated inhumanely. In this way, all the people who are sent here, in addition to the members of the defeated families in Japan, are the people who have the least status and can be sacrificed at any time. When these people know about it, they will be very sad when they know, won't they? Wang Ju continued, they themselves know that they are people who have been abandoned. Perhaps it won't be long before they lose their lives. So the people they hate the most are not us, but Japan. When they come to the Tang Empire, we will treat them well, and a large number of them will be willing to abandon their identity as Japanese and do things for us. That's all I can think of. What else? The others were also deeply convinced. 100 abandoned people, after coming to the Tang Empire, found that things were not what they thought. Many of them would become anti-Japanese. We can use them later, but do we really want them to turn back and attack Japan? Li Longji asked, don't be fooled by the fact that many of them are willing to abandon their identity as Japanese. However, only a small portion of them are willing to attack Japan. Besides, it will take a very long time for them to come to Great Tang before they will attack their own country. Xiaobao, do you think the two of you can educate them to that extent within this year? Why must we go to war? We don't want war, we want peace. The land I cut will divide the Japanese's territory. I can even cut the land into small strips, specifically to prevent them from contacting each other. Only a small gap was left for them, so that if they wanted to contact each other, there would be a way, but they would have to take a long detour to reach the place. Our other merchants continued to cooperate with us, so as to put them into economic difficulties and prevent them from concentrating their political and military forces. Then, the people who come over will be trained for a few months, and those who are slightly loyal to the Tang Empire will be picked out. They will bring back a lot of necessities and contact the Japanese in the different areas, telling them how good the Tang Empire is. We will persuade them to join the Tang Empire. As long as the majority of the people in a place are willing to join the Tang Empire, we will let them become independent first and declare that they will become the Tang Empire's territory. Then, the Tang Empire will immediately send officials to govern them. Their upper class can't stop us even if they want to. They can't even deny it. Do you think they will dare to enter the concession from other places? At that moment, they have lost the hearts of the people and lost their strategic position. They are in a situation where they can't fight back. From then on, the problem of Japan can be considered solved. As for the remaining political power, we will slowly instigate the internal relations between them and nibble away at them bit by bit. They will no longer have the strength to resist. In the future, we will disperse the Japanese and immigrate them back to the Tang Empire. When the Japanese of the Tang Empire die of old age or exhaustion, there will be no Japan in the world. And our Tang Empire will have a new ethnic group called Japan, Wang Wan said. This was what she and Zhang Xiaobao had discussed. When the Japanese invaded, they had not completely occupied China and had not stabilized their position. They began to let the children of China learn Japanese in the occupied areas. but they were not allowed to learn Chinese characters and history. At the same time, they would immigrate the Japanese and let them live with the local people. The purpose was to let the people of China forget about China one day and only think that they were a Japanese ethnic group. But they failed. They failed because others also had better technology. The Soviet Union did not allow the Japanese to occupy China. China also resisted at that time. Their territory was too large, and the Japanese could not spread out. They were preparing for the long term and let the government of China recognize the existence of that place. When the time came, they could use the Northeast as a springboard and continue to repeat this step, thus turning all of China into Japan. Then, the Soviet Union helped. In order to gain benefits, the United States also sent people to help. But the people who helped were not the parties that came to power later. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao had analyzed that the United States had helped Japan by throwing 2 atomic bombs at the end. It had helped Japan end the war at once. It was to gain control of Japan. Otherwise, the Soviet Union would get it. It was not purely to help China. At that time, if the 2 atomic bombs had not been thrown, Japan could still continue to fight. Although the veterans were gone, they still had to support the war to continue. Because Japan had not completely lost its advantage at that time, it could still be stabilized. The 2 parties in China were not very united. As long as time passed, through compromise and exchange, they might be able to form a tripartite balance. If they really did that, China would slowly fight, and after a few years of fighting, the Japanese men would be extinct. After the war, they would want to rebuild, but it would not be as fast as before. After the war, why did Japan value children so much? It was because they needed their children to grow up quickly. Otherwise, there would be no one. And now, what they needed to do was to follow their original plans. The difference was that there was no Soviet Union or America to balance the world. No one could stop the Great Tang. As Li Longji and the others listened, they once more thanked the heavens for allowing Xiaobao and Cuckoo to be born in the Great Tang. For those 2 experts who had always been elusive to be born in the Great Tang, and for them to take a fancy to Xiaobao and Cuckoo, choosing them to inherit their skills. Otherwise, if they were thrown to Duochu, what would the Great Tang do? Even if they were thrown to Japan, by the time the Great Tang discovered the situation in Japan, it would be too late to attack. It was just like how the other countries had not expected the Zhang family and Wang family of Sanshui County to reach this stage. If they had wanted to assassinate them, how could the Zhang family and Wang family of Sanshui County have been able to stop them? Fortunately, the 2 of them had grown up, or rather, they had continued to grow, and there was no turning back. Good. I now believe that you'll be able to deal with Japan within a year. Although you won't be able to deal with all the members of the Japanese imperial family, you'll definitely make it so that they won't be a threat. In the future, when you go to fight Duochu, they won't make trouble behind your backs, Li Longji said with a sigh. Li Longji sighed. He had to admit that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's strategy was a success. If they wanted to destroy a country, they didn't have to do it personally. Now that they knew that Japan would be dealt with and that they would be able to weaken the southwestern countries, Li Longji's group was in a good mood. Their travel speed had also increased. Half a month later, they were only 300 kilometers away from a landing point. Based on their current speed, they would arrive in 20 days. In fact, their speed was already very slow. The main reason was that the group was huge and the supply requirements were high. Later on, they had to constantly transport supplies. The further the journey, the longer the delay. At the same time, they also had to build roads. Occasionally, they would have to stop. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang also observed the local situation and provided several ideas for the local people to choose from. Some were related to farming, some were related to raising animals, and some were related to handicrafts. In any case, they were trying their best to increase the income of the local people. Fruits and other local specialties could also be transported to the outside world to be sold through the roads that were built. When they provided things to the people outside, they could also buy the things they needed from the outside world. Sometimes, Li Longji would also help to come up with ideas. Then, he would sigh and wonder why the local people were so stupid that they did not think about it themselves. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan did not explain to Li Longji. Even in their time, the people in remote places also stuck to their original way of life, let alone now. Li Longji seemed to be smart now because he had been with the two of them for a long time. Otherwise, he would not have been able to come up with ideas in the past. There was still no news from Takeshita Junichiro in Japan. Perhaps he had not reached his destination yet and was still drifting at sea. However, the Jiangwang clan duo had left Hangzhou long ago. They brought along Hangzhou's specialties and the group as they traveled along the coast toward Luzhou. Their speed was relatively faster than those who traveled on land. If they did not have to take a detour at sea, they could have reached their destination a few days earlier. The other places where they were preparing things also sent ships out. There was no need to follow the Jiangwang clan's ship. Before the group left Luzhou, they just needed to send everything to them. Apart from the Jiangwang clan's gifts, there were also gifts for Little Bei and the others. They did not keep the money they earned from Takeshita Junichiro. Without going to the bank, they withdrew the money from other places through their family's connections. They ordered their family members to buy the goods and ship them to Luzhou. Most of the goods were from the upper reaches of the Yangtze River. If they bought the specialties from the upper reaches of the Yangtze River and loaded them onto the ships, they would be able to travel faster. If they traveled from the capital, it would take too long. In the middle of the 7th month, at night, the moon in the sky was rounder than usual. This was the Hungry Ghost Festival, also known as the Ghost Festival. The name sounded scary, but at this moment it was the busiest time. It was second only to New Year's Eve and the 15th day of the first lunar month. The people of Tang were busy. Some were offering sacrifices, and some were out for sightseeing. It was not that they were afraid of ghosts. Instead, they treated it as a day to gather and have fun. Luzhou was especially lively tonight. Almost everyone had gathered near the docks. The neatly built roads were brightly lit as well. Torches and candles made of fish oil illuminated the entire Luzhou. There were also countless snacks placed outside. However, nobody was hawking. Instead, there were people in charge of preparing them. Once the food was taken away, someone would immediately make up for it. It was like a buffet. However, the scale of this buffet was larger than any other buffet. On both sides of the road, there were people in charge of preparing food, tea, candies, dried fruits, and so on. The amount of money spent in just one night was not a small amount. If they were to calculate the cost, they would have spent 100,000 strings of cash. Apart from these things, there were also countless Kong Ming lanterns, firecrackers, and colorful flags that were waiting to be set off. The entertainment cost of 100,000 strings of cash was equivalent to the annual income of 10 medium-sized counties in other places. However, even though so much money was spent, no one felt the pinch. Well, to be more precise, only a small portion of people felt the pinch. The person who felt the pinch was the newly appointed provincial governor of Luzhou, Su Mingyang. He had only obtained this position through his connections. At the beginning of spring, he brought his family and rushed to Luzhou with him. After the handover, he wanted to show off his ambition. He had heard about Luzhou. The previous officials were replaced every year, but no one was able to interfere with Luzhou's development. Before he came, the person he had asked told him not to have any other ideas. If he stayed in Luzhou for a year without any problems, he would be given a large sum of money when he left. At the same time, he would be asked to learn more during his free time. Luzhou was an important place for imports and exports. There were many things that could not be learned elsewhere. He could broaden his horizons and learn. When he returned, he could be given a better position and even have a chance to enter the court. Su Mingyang agreed readily, but he was not convinced. He always thought that if he came to Luzhou with his own ability, he would be able to discover the shortcomings of Luzhou's development and make up for it. However, when he arrived at the place, he had not discovered the flaws in his development. He first found that there were many things that he did not know. He could only learn patiently so that he could think about what to change after he learned. In the end, the more he learned, the more he realized that he knew little. It was as though everything he had learned before was part of the Enlightenment education. When it was almost the day before the Hungry Ghost Festival, he wanted to organize an event to win the hearts of the people. However, before he could organize it, Lu Zhou's people had already organized it. Moreover, they did not tell him at all, let alone ask for his opinion and suggestions. He asked a few people, but he did not get any useful information. He could only wait for the day when others were busy. He would participate in the event as the provincial governor. He thought that, as an official, the others would not continue to ignore him. Right? When he went out at night, under the bright light of the fire, he saw the words on the banners and flags that were held up by the people outside. At first, he was happy. This was because the words on the banners read, "Welcome, Provincial Governor. Greetings, Provincial Governor. We miss you, Provincial Governor." It seemed that the people wanted to give him a surprise. Su Mingyang thought to himself. When he saw the endless line of people walking toward the government office, he stood out with a happy expression on his face. He placed his hands behind his back and waited for the people to greet him. However, the people did not seem to see him. They continued to hold up the banners and walk to the other side. A few people who thought he was a hindrance glared at him. He pulled someone aside and said angrily, "Tell me, where are you going to celebrate for me? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, I won't participate." The person who was pulled aside looked at him in surprise. When he regained his senses, he pursed his lips and said, "Stay in your mansion obediently. Who cares about you? You're the provincial governor. We're going to welcome the provincial governor's wife. They're coming tonight." The provincial governor's wife? My wife is in my mansion. Why don't I know where she went? Su Mingyang continued to hold on to the person and refused to let go. What kind of provincial governor are you? In Luzhou, there's only one provincial governor, and that's Provincial Governor Zhang Zhong. The provincial governor's wife is coming by boat. We're going to welcome her. Let me tell you, don't cause trouble. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. Be obedient. Let go of my hand. As the person spoke, he struggled to break free from Su Mingyang's hand. A happy expression returned to his face as he walked toward the docks with the others. Why am I not the provincial governor? Why am I not the provincial governor? I'll go as well. I want to ask Zhang Zhong's wife in person if I'm the provincial governor of Luzhou. Su Mingyang said angrily. As expected, he followed the group to the docks. Chapter 11:11. As for Su Mingyang following them, many people in the group heading to the pier saw him, but they didn't do anything. They did not say that Su Mingyang was not allowed to go over, nor did they welcome him. They were all wondering if they could get close to the madam of the Zhang family and say a few words when they saw her. There was still quite a distance between the state capital and the pier. It was not yet midnight, only a quarter to the afternoon. There were still 40 minutes to go. Based on their current speed, they would reach the pier by the time it was morning, and they would need to walk for 3 hours. It would be much faster if they took a carriage. However, there were also many people heading to the pier. People from various counties in the state were gathering at the pier. Even if they did not have to work tomorrow, they still wanted to welcome them. Some old people who could not walk asked their children to push their carriages to the pier. They were a minority. Most of the old people were staying in the nursing home in the state capital. They were given special treatment and rode on carriages at the back of the group. The more Su Mingyang walked, the more jealous he became. With the help of the torches by the side of the road, he could clearly see the heartfelt smiles on many people's faces. The children were also jumping forward. From time to time, a few children would play around with the adults. It was truly a festive atmosphere. However, this atmosphere had nothing to do with Su Mingyang. When other places celebrated the Hungry Ghost Festival, there would also be activities organized by various places. Some were organized by the people themselves, and some were organized by the government. regardless of which, when the local officials went out, they would definitely be supported by the local upper class. Even the rich would have to greet the officials first if they wanted to bring their old and young to play. Lu Zhou's Hungry Ghost Festival was lively, and it was even more lively than the one in the capital. However, it seemed to have nothing to do with him. He was a dignified official, and yet he was deliberately forgotten. The more lively the streets were, the more lonely he felt. I don't believe that you, Zhang Qiao, dare not admit that I'm Lu Zhou's provincial governor when I'm questioned. The people are ignoring me, and you, Zhang Qiao, are not sensible? I'd like to ask who's in charge of Lu Zhou. Unruly people, a bunch of unruly people. I'll make you admit my position in front of Zhang Qiao. Su Mingyang secretly made a decision, intending to use the Zhang Wangshi to stabilize his position. With all kinds of hatred in his heart, he seemed to have forgotten about his fatigue as he walked. Su Mingyang, who usually did not train, actually followed Lu Zhou's group for 3 hours and arrived at Lu Zhou's pier. He looked at the brightly lit water surface as he waited for the arrival of the Jiang Wang clan. At the port, all the large ships were gone. They were either arranged outside or hiding in the upper reaches of the river to make way for the fleet that was about to arrive. The river was almost full of small boats, and each boat had a string of lanterns hanging on it. There were also all kinds of petals that Su Mingyang couldn't name floating on the water. There were pink, red, white, and even blue flowers. It made people feel that it was no longer the original dock, but a sea of flower boats. As the sea breeze blew, there seemed to be a faint fragrance of flowers, accompanied by the shadows of the coconut forest and kapok trees. The people who had rushed over had already gathered in groups of 3 to 5, whispering to each other. There were also people in charge of delivering all kinds of food to the people who were resting on the ground. There were local dried fruits, all kinds of dried fish, shrimps, kelp slices, and seaweed. Every once in a while, there would be a place with fewer people around. There were people in charge of boiling water for the people who came over to drink. There were also people who specialized in making rice noodles, fruit pancakes, and sugar blowers. Su Mingyang felt hungry when he smelled the fruit pancakes. He was too busy being angry earlier that he forgot to eat dinner. He was mainly waiting for others to celebrate the Hungry Ghost Festival with him before eating. He felt around in his sleeve pocket. Fortunately, he brought some money. The fruit pancakes cost 2 copper coins each. There were eggs and fruits in them. Since it was by the sea, they even added sea hares and other things. It was very unique. Su Mingyang took out 2 copper coins and walked up to a cart selling fruit pancakes. He lowered his head and handed the pancakes over. He said, "Give me one. Put more chopped green onions, put more sweet sauce, and make it more salty." The person guarding the stall swiftly gave one to Su Mingyang. When he turned around and handed it over, he did not take the money and said, "I don't want money. I'm working for free today. Everyone else's food is free as well. How can I take money from you? It doesn't make much difference. Eat. You'll have the strength to wait for Madame Zhang when you're full." Su Mingyang was jealous again. F***CK. Madame Zhang isn't here yet, but someone is already working for free. What fruit pancakes? They don't taste good at all. After taking a bite, Su Mingyang cursed resentfully in his heart. He put the 2 coins away and saved money. In truth, Su Mingyang did not spend any money when he ate outside. He had set a rule that he was responsible for giving a sum of money to Provincial Governor Lu Zhou and his family members. Whenever they came out, no matter what they bought or ate, they would not be charged. The seller would reimburse them when the time came. He was afraid that they would recognize him, so he took out the money. In the end, he still enjoyed the same treatment without revealing his identity. However, this was not the treatment he wanted. Although there was a small bridge over a flowing stream, an artesian well, a pond, and birds chirping in the trees, and he did not have to worry about food and clothing, he always felt like someone was giving him alms. The most infuriating thing was that when he lived in the mansion, he felt that there was something wrong with it. He wanted to change it, but no one was allowed to do so. He had to keep it the way it was. It was indeed good. He did not know who designed it, but it was almost as if there was a scenery with every step. The problem was that the original scenery was built when Zhang Zhong lived in the mansion. If a local policy did not allow him to change it, could he not change his own house as well? Last month, he secretly changed the aisle. He changed the original straight path into a curved path. The section that just entered the mansion was about 30 meters long. There was a back door. In the end, it was seen by the people who came to deliver the daily necessities. When they returned, they told others. Then, on the afternoon of the second day, a group of people gathered outside the mansion with tools in their hands. They said that they were helping him fix the path. They said that the original path was good and that it was easy to step in the mud when walking. There was mud in other parts of the path. That was because he had just finished fixing the path and did not have time to plant flowers or lay stones around it. As a result, he watched helplessly as the path that his family had worked so hard to fix was changed back by the people. Zhang Zhong had been gone for so many years. Why was the courtyard not allowed to be touched? The more Su Mingyang thought about it, the angrier he became. He bit down on the pancake, as if he had bitten all the hateful people to death. When he finished eating, he felt that he had put too much sauce and was thirsty. He turned around and asked for water to drink. At the same time, he looked for the toilets at the dock, afraid that he would not be able to squeeze in. Just like that, he waited for about half an hour. From afar, a small boat with a lantern was rowing like an arrow. The people on the boat shouted at the top of their lungs. "They're here. Madame Zhang and Madame Wang are here. They're in formation outside and will enter the harbor soon. Quick, those who are sitting, get up." After the shout, Su Mingyang found that the people sitting beside him had all stood up and stood in an orderly manner. No one squeezed forward like an army. Others did not squeeze, but he squeezed. He wanted to wait for Jiang Wang clan to get off the boat and ask her properly. Under the unhappy stares of others, Su Mingyang squeezed the front. To be precise, he was in the second row. He did not dare to squeeze in the first row as it was too obvious. This was because there was a group of children of about the same height standing in the first row. Each child was holding a bouquet of flowers in their hands. It looked like they were going to present flowers. They only know how to go through the motions. What is there to present? The flowers can't be eaten or drunk. Oh, are you setting up a formation? Are you tired? While Su Mingyang was criticizing the arrangement of children presenting flowers, he saw the small boats rowing on the water surface. He also did the same. He saw that the small boats on the water surface seemed to have been trained. They were rowing in a very orderly manner. As they rowed, the small boats that were originally floating on the water formed for large circles and moved to the side to make way for the main waterway. As the waterway opened up, the silhouette of a large ship appeared in front of them. The large ship was also lit up by flames. It was brighter than the light from the lanterns. It was obvious that the ship was powered by electricity. It was also colorless and reflected the fluttering flags. Here it comes, here it comes. Su Mingyang took a deep breath. He planned to wait for Jiang Wang clan to get off the boat and immediately rush forward with the children. He wanted to catch Jiang Wang clan and ask her about it. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. The crackling sound of firecrackers scared him. He cursed in his heart and endured it. He waited and waited. Finally, the flagship approached. A wide gangplank was placed on top of it. A group of people slowly walked down from the ship. Some were dressed as maids. Some were dressed as guards. In the middle of them were Jiang Wang clan and Madame Wang. Su Mingyang was ready to rush forward at any time. At this moment, the leader of the children in the first row shouted, "Greetings to the provincial governor's wife. Greetings to the first-rank honorary lady." Then the other children shouted in unison, "Greetings to the provincial governor's wife. Greetings to the first-rank honorary lady." Then the people in the first few rows who heard the voices shouted, "Greetings to the provincial governor's wife. Greetings to the first-rank honorary lady." After 3 shouts, with a crashing sound, everyone knelt down on the ground. The children ran forward with flowers in their arms. Su Mingyang was dumbfounded. Apart from the people who were coming down from the ship, his height made him stand out. He stood there like a stick. It did not matter if he was tall or a stick. What made him uncomfortable was that if others only addressed him as the provincial governor's wife, he did not have to do anything. He was also a provincial governor. However, others addressed him as a first-rank honorary lady. He was only a third-rank official. If it were not for Lu Zhou's growing importance and prosperity, he would only be a fourth-rank official. Although Zhang Zhong was the Minister of Works and a third-rank official, he had a first-rank official title in name only. When he was rewarded, his wife would naturally be a first-rank honorary lady. The entire Zhang Zhong and Wang family were officials, including the youngest children. Should he greet a first-rank official or not? If he went over to greet her, he did not have to kowtow. However, his status would be lowered. When he wanted to question her, he would not have the confidence to do so. He would have unknowingly raised Zhang Qiao's status. If he did not greet her and it was another first-rank honorary lady, they would think that he was impolite. Even if the case was brought to Hanyuan Palace, he could just say that he was too happy and neglected it. The problem was that she might not need to go to Hanyuan Palace. Her children were rushing over by land, and he did not know when they would arrive. At that time, there would be no need for her eldest son, Zhang Xiaobao, to do anything. The 9 little fellows together would be the inspector of Great Tang. If he offended their mother, she would directly accuse him. If he was really convicted, it would not be as simple as being impolite. He would be added 5 ranks. At that time, losing his official position would be considered a light punishment. At worst, he would be sent away, but he would definitely not be sent to Lu Zhou in Lingnan Circuit. While Su Mingyang was thinking about what to do, the children had already rushed over. They were divided into 2 groups. One group stood in front of the Jiang Wang clan, while the other group stood in front of Madame Wang. They presented the flowers in their hands, one after another. When they received the order from the adults, they gave their blessings to the adults and the children in their bellies. Jiang Wang clan and Madame Wang replied with all kinds of blessings with smiles on their faces. Before they could say anything, they had already patted the children's heads. When it was about time, he remembered that there was still a group of people kneeling. He quickly asked someone to bring a loudspeaker. When he saw the people standing there, he was puzzled. He said, "Everyone please rise. There's no need to be so polite. Lu Zhou is my home. Little Bei and the others were born in Lu Zhou, and they have never forgotten about it. I'm still giving birth to the new children in Lu Zhou. When they are born, when will I leave? There's still a long way to go, so please rise." Whoosh, there was a burst of happy noise. No one had arranged for the training in advance, so it was very chaotic. During this period, there were also the happy shouts of children. When the sound stopped, everyone stood up one after another. In fact, the people at the back did not hear what Jiang Wang clan said at all. They were too far away, and the loudspeaker was not very effective. However, they could feel the happiness of the people in front of them. When they saw the people in front of them stand up, they also stood up. When they all stood up, the area within 10 meters of Su Mingyang was empty. The people who had been around him just now hid far away and looked at him with vigilance. That meant, "What's wrong with you? Others are kneeling, but you're the only one standing there? Are you more capable than others?" Someone recognized her and said to the person next to him, "Hey, isn't that the one with the surname Su? He's here too? Are you looking for trouble?" When Su Mingyang heard this, he was furious. He walked up to the people from the Jiang Wang clan, cupped his fists, and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Lu Zhou's provincial governor Su Mingyang. Rise. You've worked hard, Provincial Governor Lu." Jiang Wang clan said to Su Mingyang on behalf of the 2 people. She thought Su Mingyang had also participated in the welcoming ceremony. Although it was a waste of money and manpower, since he was here, she could not reprimand him. Besides, it did not matter if he was delayed for a day. After Su Mingyang bowed, he regretted it. This was because he realized the 2 people were not wearing the clothes of a titled lady. Instead, they were wearing loose maternity clothes. Why did he have to bow formally when they were not wearing formal clothes? It was a loss. However, since he had already bowed, he could not expect the other party to spit it back to him. It was impossible. He paused for a moment and said, "Madame Zhang, there's something I don't understand. Please enlighten me." "What's the matter?" "I usually don't care about other things. I'm just idling at home. I can't do anything if it's too difficult. When Xiao Bao comes, he might be able to answer it." Jiang Wang Clan said politely. She thought Su Mingyang was asking about the construction of Luzhou. "There's no need for your young master to answer this. Madame Zhang, you can answer it yourself. I'd like to ask if I'm the provincial governor of Luzhou. Can I exercise the authority of the provincial governor? Please enlighten me." Su Mingyang asked loudly. He seemed confident. He deliberately said it for the people who were closer to him to hear. When Zhang Wangshe heard this, she immediately understood that the other party felt that it was very leisurely to stay in Luzhou. She could not stand it anymore and came to question her. She wanted to use her mouth to get the right to speak. She was also not convinced by her family. The little bit of goodwill she had towards Su Mingyang disappeared immediately. Luzhou was an important place to Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. How important could he be to an official for a year? She said calmly, "Lord Su, don't you know if you're the provincial governor of Luzhou? Are you here for a vacation? His Majesty will be here soon. I'll tell His Majesty what you said. His Majesty will tell you what your position is and whether you can exercise the authority. Men, send Lord Su out." After she finished speaking, Jiang Wang Clan ignored Su Mingyang and walked down the pier. Naturally, someone came over to ask Su Mingyang to stay away from her. He did not want to do anything that might endanger Madame Zhang. Su Mingyang was stunned again. He did not expect the Jiang Wang Clan to be so difficult to deal with. Moreover, her counterattack was so sharp. It was over. If she really told His Majesty, his position as provincial governor would be gone. There was an example of the provincial governor of Luzhou being dealt with in the past. What should he do? With anxiety in his heart, Su Mingyang suddenly thought of an idea. He didn't care how effective it would be. He shouted, "Madame Zhang, this official was drunk. Just now, I may have spoken nonsense. Please forgive me." This time, he did not dare to call himself this official. He changed it to this official, which meant that he was apologizing and looking for an excuse. The Jiang Wang Clan did not bother to respond to him. She knew that it was useless to say anything. What Su Mingyang said earlier had been heard by the people of Luzhou. It would not take long for the news to spread. When her children arrived, the emperor would definitely come out to visit them incognito. If he asked any of the people, how could the people not complain? It's too late. He spoke so loudly just now. What was he thinking? It's useless to say that he was drunk now. So why bother? With that thought in mind, the Jiang Wang Clan looked around. She was looking for a carriage. Her belly was big. It was impossible for her to walk to her own restaurant. The restaurant here was the signature restaurant of Sea Cloud Inn. She and Madame Wang needed a stable carriage, the kind with shock absorbers under the carriage. After looking around, she did not see any carriage. She was puzzled. Could it be that the local family members were less capable because they were far away from the main family? While she was thinking, the crowd in front of her suddenly moved aside. 16 people stood out from a crowd. There were wooden rafts under their feet. An old man stepped forward and said respectfully to the Jiang Wang Clan, "Madams, are you tired from the journey? Do you need to rest? We've prepared transportation. This way, please." As he spoke, the 16 people divided into 4 directions and lifted the wooden rafts. There were 16 people on the wooden rafts to carry. Another person laid a thick cotton mattress on top of the wooden rafts. When she looked at the 16 people again, she noticed that they had a common feature. Their legs were almost the same length, and their shoulders were almost the same height. "Are you asking us to go up?" the Jiang Wang Clan asked. The old man nodded and replied respectfully, "Yes, madams. Back then, when Luzhou was flooded, It was your family who arranged for the wooden rafts to be connected together to resist the tide. Now that the embankment is secure and the tide is no longer coming, we will send you off with the tide. We won't forget your kindness. There's no need for that. A carriage is enough. The Jiangwang clan knew that it was not her family who did not arrange it. It was the people who did not allow it. They wanted people to carry them. Madams, please. The old man repeated stubbornly. Thank you. The Jiangwang clan did not stand on ceremony. She followed Madame Wang to the wooden rafts that were lowered. Someone else brought them a cushion. The cushion was cushioned with thick fish skin. It was comfortable and elastic when one leaned on it. Rise. 1, 2, 1, 2, let's go. The old man shouted. The 16 people walked towards the ocean cloud inn at the same pace. The people in front made way for them. The people on both sides of the road lit up big red lanterns at the same time. Some people in front of the wooden rafts began to move forward with the rafts. They swept the soil and sprinkled water. Then, some people laid out the same big red carpet that extended into the distance. Countless people also moved in that direction. However, no one spoke. The sound of their footsteps was very soft. It was like the tide of the sea. There was a hidden turbulence, and it made one's heart beat faster. The only person who was lonely was Provincial Governor Su Mingyang. He watched the crowd quietly escorting the Jiangwang clan away. Then, he looked at the red carpet behind the crowd. He could not even feel jealous. Should I be an official in another place? It's better to be in a place that is about to suffer a disaster. I can learn from the Zhang clan and Wang clan and live with the local people during that period of time. I can think of a way to make them rich. When I go there again in the future, there will be people who can carry me like they did today. Su Mingyang thought about it and came up with this idea. He felt that he could no longer manage the affairs in Luzhou. In the past, he had no power. Today, he had offended people. Even if the emperor did not pursue the matter, and the Zhang clan and Wang clan did not pursue the matter, the people of Luzhou would not treat him the same as before. Even if the emperor came, he would not be able to enjoy such treatment. He wondered if he could tell His Majesty about what had happened tonight when he met His Majesty. If His Majesty got angry, perhaps His Majesty would give him more power in Luzhou. With this thought in mind, Su Mingyang's mood improved again. He was not afraid that the Jiangwang clan would badmouth the emperor and put him in a sad position. The more the Jiangwang clan badmouthed him, the more the emperor would think. Su Mingyang, who was happy, planned to go back to the mansion first and think about what to say. However, after taking 2 steps, he suddenly found that it would take at least 3 hours to go back. It was so far away, and he was exhausted. The procession moved forward. No one noticed that there were a few people who were not from Luzhou. There were adults and children in the procession. After the 2 madams were sent to their destination, the crowd dispersed. When they were ready to go back to their own homes to celebrate, a few extra people appeared in the crowd and looked at each other. For a moment, they did not know what to do. Logically speaking, we should also enter Ocean Cloud Restaurant and rest in the courtyard behind it. Right, Your Majesty? Zhang Xiaobao asked Li Longji, who had insisted on stopping the group so that he could personally conduct a private investigation in disguise. They were not too late. When they arrived, the Jiangwang clan had not arrived yet. When the others were kneeling, Li Longji and the other adults sat down. Zhang Xiaobao, Wang Wan, Xiaobei, and the other 9 children were kneeling. As for Pan and Pan, they were with their mother and did not come. They were too young and could not afford to go through so much trouble. Now that the Jiangwang clan duo had gone to rest, Li Longji and the others were homeless. Li Longji could not go in quietly to rest. He had to be welcomed by the people as well. It was not that he wanted to go through so much trouble, but this was a matter of etiquette. If he did not let the people welcome him, it would affect the Jiangwang clan duo. The 2 madams were welcomed by the people, but the emperor was left alone. How could he let the 2 of them stay? Xiaobao, it's all your fault. Why did you have to come at this time? Look, you can't find a place to sleep tonight, right? Li Longji pushed the blame to Zhang Xiaobao. Xiao Bei could not accept it and said, "Uncle Emperor, you have to be reasonable. You told us to come here because my mother comes at night. That's why we came here at night. Why didn't your brother let your mother come during the day?" Li Longji found another reason. "What's the difference between day and night? There are many people here, and there are lanterns to watch at night. It's more fun than during the day," Xiao Bei said as she pointed at the lanterns around them. "We have a place to stay during the day. Where are we going to find a place at night? An inn? Apart from your sea cloud room, I reckon the other places have been booked by people who are tired of walking. That's the difference," Li Longji argued with Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei considered it for a moment before she nodded. Then, she shook her head and said, "We'll be exposed during the day. The people who came with my mother will recognize us." Uncle Emperor, look, some of them aren't going back. They're planning to hold a bonfire party there. Unfortunately, they only set off firecrackers for a while. If they keep playing, it'll be like the New Year. If they keep playing, they'll scare our mother. Stupid. Little Yuan chimed in. "You're the stupid one. Can't they play further away? Let's join in the fun. We'll meet back tomorrow morning. It's too late. I'm tired from walking. I can't go back now." Xiao Bei was eager to join in the fun as well. Li Longji turned to look at Zhang Xiaobao and said, "Xiaobao, Luzhou, don't tell me you only care about your family's well-being and didn't prepare an estate for me? Do you really think Luzhou belongs to your family and want to be independent? Back then, you promised me that you'd build an estate for me in various places in Great Tang. I'll use it when I'm traveling and when I'm not traveling. I'm sure you've already built an estate in other places. If Luzhou doesn't have one, doesn't that mean Luzhou isn't under Great Tang's jurisdiction? Is that why it doesn't conflict with your promise to me? Don't accuse me. How can there not be an estate when there's one? One is 25 miles away from here, and the other is in the 100,000 mountains. Which one do you think is more suitable now?" Zhang Xiaobao asked Li Longji. Li Longji was puzzled. "Why is it so far away? This is the center of Luzhou, so it should be here. Oh, I get it. The land at the docks is expensive. Can you find a cheaper place to answer me? When did the docks become the center? Your estate isn't too far away from the provincial capital. The provincial capital is the center, all right?" Zhang Xiaobao gestured a few times to prove that he was not wrong. Realization dawned on Li Longji. "That's right. The provincial capital is the center. In that case, I'll just wait by the bonfire for a night." Li Longji did not want to leave anymore. Even if he had the money, he could not afford a ride. At this moment, those who stayed behind to wait by the bonfire had long disappeared. The group of 14 people walked over to a bonfire that looked relatively large. The 14 people were Little Bei, Zhang Xiaobao, Wang Wan, Gao Lisher, Wang Ju, and Li Longji. They did not bring any other bodyguards. Initially, Gao Lisher planned to bring a group of bodyguards, but Li Longji disagreed. If they brought too many people, they would easily be exposed. Moreover, this was Zhang Xiaobao's turf. There was no need for them to worry. If this were any other place, they might be worried that the locals would be bribed. However, this was impossible in Luzhou, especially since they were mountain tribesmen. For the other officials, mountain tribesmen were the most difficult to deal with. However, for the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family, the mountain tribesmen were loyal supporters of Luzhou. Mountain tribesmen were not like ordinary people. When the 14 of them arrived at the bonfire, there were already more than 20 people around it. Most of them did not plan to return at night. Some of them were probably here because their homes were far away, and some were here to join in the fun. Apart from the adults, there were 3 children as well. Perhaps they had already prepared food when they arrived. There were fish and prawns from the sea and animals from the mountains. Everyone gathered around the bonfire. They chatted and laughed as they roasted the food. When they saw other people coming, they did not stand up. Instead, a few of them smiled and gestured for the newcomers to join them. The madams of the 2 families are here. Before long, Xiaobao and Cuckoo will be here as well. Little Bei and the others will be here as well. Lu Zhou is even livelier now. A person turned the food he was roasting and said to the others. His face was red from the light of the fire, and he looked very excited. Another person added, "The emperor is here as well." That's the emperor we're talking about. Ordinary people can't see him. Only those who went to Jili province last time had a chance to see him. Unfortunately, when they came back, they only said that they saw the emperor and asked him to describe the emperor's appearance. However, he said that he was nervous and forgot. What's there to be nervous about? It's just meeting the emperor. If it were me, I would remember the emperor's appearance and tell others when I come back. You said that you're not nervous, but when the time comes and you really see the emperor, I don't think you can stand still. I heard that many people are coming. There are 100,000 soldiers guarding the emperor. How majestic. Another person chimed in. It's 200,000 soldiers. How can 100,000 soldiers be enough when the emperor is traveling? The person who spoke first corrected him. When Little Bei heard that, he giggled. Kid, what are you laughing at? Do you think it's only 200,000 soldiers? If it's not enough, I think it's possible for them to send another 200,000 soldiers. Another person explained his judgment when he saw Little Bei laughing. Little Bei asked, "How are we going to feed 200,000 soldiers? It's not like we're traveling by water. We're traveling by land. How many people are going to deliver food for 200,000 soldiers? If we only eat the game in the forest, it won't be enough for 200,000 people. How are we going to feed the villages along the way? Even if we eat all the people in the villages, many of the guards will starve to death. In my opinion, apart from the guards and the other people, 30,000 is more than enough. Who would dare to play tricks and intercept us midway? How many people can they send? If they want to beat 30,000 armed soldiers, even 100,000 soldiers won't be enough. Kid, don't talk nonsense if you don't know anything. 30,000 soldiers aren't impressive enough. Here, eat something to shut your mouth." One person gave Little Bei and the others a deer to fill their stomachs. When Little Bei saw that others were treating her like a child, she pouted unhappily. When she saw that the other party also had 3 children, she ignored the adults. She touched her backpack and went to talk to the 3 children. She brought candies and other things. Li Longji ate while smiling and listening to others talk. Some people brought wine as well. They gave 2 leather pouches to the people who came later to liven things up. Li Longji took a sip. To his surprise, it was strong wine. He swallowed a mouthful of meat and exhaled deeply. He said to the person who spoke first, "His Majesty must be bored out of his mind. Xiaobao and Cuckoo are here to visit their relatives. Why is he here as well? Everyone knows that Lu Zhou belongs to the Zhang family and the Wang family, not His Majesty. His Majesty can't control Lu Zhou, right?" When Xiaobao heard this, he immediately knew what Li Longji was planning to do. He actually dared to test Li Longji in front of him. What a petty person. Even if he got a positive answer, what could he do? In the past, the people of Lu Zhou were always causing trouble. Could he do anything about it? As expected, he had nothing better to do. In truth, Li Longji did not plan to do anything. He only wanted to see if the answer was the same as what he expected. He had a feeling that wherever the Zhang family and the Wang family went, the people only knew about the Zhang family and the Wang family. They did not care about him, the emperor. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the 20 or so people who were eating glared at him. One of them glared at him and said, "What do you want?" "Let me tell you, Lu Zhou belongs to Great Tang. Are you a troublemaker from elsewhere? Are you trying to get us to help Xiaobao and Cuckoo Rebel? Tell me, where did you come from?" "That's right. Why haven't I seen you before?" Although Lu Zhou isn't young, there's a group of children and a few adults here. I should know 1 or 2 of them, right? I often drive my sports car around Lu Zhou. If you don't tell me, don't think you can leave in peace today. As the person spoke, he was about to make a move. Zhang Xiaobao hastily said, "We live nearby. We've been here for more than 10 days. We should have returned to the inn, but we followed you here because we were happy. We don't have any other intentions. We just feel that the emperor is far from being praised by others just by moving his mouth. Compared to the Zhang family and the Wang family we're indebted to, we have to prioritize first. If we're talking about who's better, the Zhang family and the Wang family should be at the front while the emperor should be at the back, right? What's right? You're wrong. The emperor is a good emperor. He should be at the front. Back then, if the emperor didn't ask Lord Zhang and the others to come here, Lu Zhou would have been finished. I don't think it would have been able to recover until now. How many people would have died? Although there weren't many of them back then, that's all. The person who spoke earlier retorted Zhang Xiaobao. What if it's a bad emperor? Who's at the front? Zhang Xiaobao asked. A bad emperor? The person lowered his head and thought about it. Then he shook his head and said, "It can't be a bad emperor. How can he suddenly be bad? It's impossible." I said, "What if?" Zhang Xiaobao continued to ask. "What if I beat you to death if you try to sow discord again? You're clearly a good emperor. The emperor and his subjects are of one mind, and we're trying to make Tang better. Why do you have to think of the worst? Your mind is impure. Don't talk about it anymore. It makes me angry." The person pressed his fist together, making a crackling sound like the sound of a bonfire. It seemed like he was about to hit someone. Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand and admitted his mistake. "Yes, it's my fault. I'm too evil. All I think about are wretched things. I'm filthy and too dark. I won't think about it anymore. However, if I don't think about it anymore, what do you think the emperor will do? If he really trusts the Zhang family and the Wang family, why did he come to Lu Zhou personally? It's quite a distance to Lu Zhou from the capital. How many national affairs would he have delayed? My guess is that the emperor doesn't trust the Zhang family and the Wang family, especially Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. They're too powerful. You're speaking nonsense again. The emperor is here for a vacation, all right? Oh no, he's here to see the construction of the railway. If he's really worried, he wouldn't be here with Xiaobao and Cuckoo. I say, what's wrong with you? Didn't you say you wouldn't talk about it? I even said I'll teach you a lesson." The person seemed to have regained his senses after a few words. He glared at Zhang Xiaobao as though this was his final warning. Zhang Xiaobao hastily waved his hand again. "I apologize. I shouldn't have said that. It was a slip of the tongue. Is it true that those who say such things are bad people? Do they deserve a beating?" He was the one who said it first. He said that the emperor can't control Lu Zhou and that his intentions are impure. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he pointed at Li Longji. As expected, the person who had spoken earlier shifted his gaze to Li Longji again. Li Longji glared at Zhang Xiaobao. He thought to himself, "As expected, you're full of evil tricks." However, he quickly explained himself, "I was just joking. If you're talking about Zhang Xiaobao and Wang, you're talking about Xiaobao and Cuckoo, not Zhang and Wang? Are you trying to stir up trouble? The way they address each other is sometimes right and sometimes wrong, yet they still want to sow discord. Do you want Xiaobao and Huan to fight with the emperor? Are you happy that you've messed up Tang? Tell me, where are you from before you came here? I'm telling you, I can tell at a glance whether you're telling the truth or not. The consequences of lying to me are severe. I'll give you a good beating first. Then I'll hand you over to the Zhang family and Wang family's branches here." The person who had spoken earlier clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked. It was clear that he was prepared to draw his sword at any moment. "To tell you the truth, we're from the capital. We're here to buy some things and sell them when we get back. We'll make more money by selling them. Tell me, what benefits do you think the emperor can bring to Lu Zhou?" Li Longji tried his best to sound like he was from the capital to prove his identity. "Benefits? Why are you always thinking about such nonsense? What benefits does Lu Zhou need? Since the emperor is here, we should be the ones giving him benefits. Only people from places with no abilities would expect benefits from others. If the emperor is here, it'll be a great benefit for me if he can ride my carriage. In the future, when I meet other people, I can tell them that the emperor has ridden in my carriage. Even if it's someone from the Zhang family and Wang family, it'll be fine. If we're talking about benefits, the emperor might be able to give us benefits. In the past, when the emperor went to other places, he would usually reduce the rent. I just hope the emperor can come and write a few words. There's no need to reduce or exempt the rent. We, the people of Luzhou, have hands and feet, and we've earned a lot of money. We can pay more taxes to the court. Only when the court has money can they build guns and cannons to fight the bad guys. The person said with yearning. When he was happy, he would even chuckle twice. Li Longji was happy as well. He did not expect the people of Luzhou to be so supportive of him. At the same time, they were prideful and did not need help from others. If there was a similar place to compare, it could only be Sanshui County. The people of Sanshui County were the same. They did not need any help from a court. Moreover, they tried their best to pay more rent. When they arrived at the capital, they were unlike the people from other places who were shocked and amazed by everything. The people of Sanshui County acted as though they owned the capital. The people who lived in the capital did not dare to look down on the people of Sanshui County. After all, the people of Sanshui County were too famous. Let's drink. Li Longji raised the leather pouch in his hand and gestured to the person. They drank a mouthful of wine at the same time. Then he wiped his mouth with his hand and said, "Guns and cannons to fight the bad guys? Does our Luzhou need to fight the bad guys as well? Luzhou shouldn't be a bad guy. I'm not a bad guy as well. I was just testing you earlier." "You're testing us? We don't need to be tested by others. We'll test ourselves with our own conscience. We know who's good and who's bad. If you're talking about bad guys, there are. Last month, the gunships were deployed to fight them. First, the gunships stationed at the lighthouse opened fire. In the end, there were too many of them. They surrounded the lighthouse and didn't dare to get close. Later on, the gunships were deployed and sunk all of them. The person waved his fist, as though he was the one who sunk the ships and not the gunships. Is that so? Why didn't I know about it? When Li Longji heard this, he turned to look at Zhang Xiaobao, who was munching on a deer leg. Zhang Xiaobao nodded vigorously. After swallowing the meat in his mouth, he drank another mouthful of wine to smooth out his thoughts. Then he said, "Yes, it's a group of tribes and small countries in the southwest. To be honest, we can't blame them. Our ships are good. They're specially built to work together to fish. Since the lighthouse was built, our ships had to go there as well. There's no rule about who's in charge of the sea. Most of the time, it's fine as long as we don't get too close to the shore. Moreover, our fishing tools are slightly more advanced. For example, we use Ganzi lanterns to light up the night. They can only use oil lamps. The difference between the two of us is huge. Most importantly, we don't allow them to go up to the lighthouse. It's not easy for them to go out to the sea. When they reach the lighthouse, they'll have to go back when they're almost done with their food. Our people pack up their things when they go and put them in the nearest lighthouse. When they run out of food on the ships, they go to the lighthouse to ask for food, including fresh water. After comparing with each other, they feel that our things are better and wanted to buy them. They even discussed with the lighthouse, saying that they'll also store their things, especially fresh water. However, that's obviously impossible. If they really get used to it, we won't even know when they'll take over the lighthouse. So they banded together to bully our fishing ships. When the fishing ships saw that they had a lot of people, they went to the lighthouse. The lighthouse sent people with guns to protect the fishing ships. There was often bloodshed. Later on, they were forced into a corner, so they sent a larger group to the lighthouse to cause trouble. The gunships were dispatched and fired. They didn't remember how many times they did it. In any case, there was constant friction, and they kept getting the short end of the stick. Otherwise, why would they go and cause trouble for us? There's no reason to talk about a weak country. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he looked like he couldn't care less. He lowered his head and continued to eat the deer leg. Chapter 11-12. Li Longji nodded. He understood. Indeed, a weak country had no diplomatic relations. Fortunately, Tang was not weak. It would only grow stronger in the future. When Li Longji saw how knowledgeable Zhang Xiaobao was, he knew he must have received information before this. He asked, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "It's not a big deal." "Why should I tell you?" "You're so busy." "I'll tell you when there's something more important." For example, did Lu Zhou send troops to defeat them? Zhang Xiaobao said with a smile. "That's right. It's a small matter. I know about it. If you didn't ask me, I wouldn't have told you." Little Bei whispered to the children. She did not forget to pay attention to the situation here. When she heard her brother mention the bullying, she spoke up. Nowadays, they were the first to pass on information. They were not expected to come up with any good ideas. They were only asked to understand the situation. Hence, when they were together, they were the first to read the information. However, they were not allowed to hide anything. Even if the information was given to them by their subordinates, they were not allowed to hide anything. "Good. Little fellow, you're amazing as well," Li Longji praised. He almost said, "Little Bei." The people who were eating were puzzled. Earlier, these people said they had just arrived from the capital and did not seem to know anything. Why did they suddenly know about the deployment of the gunships? "Are you really in the business?" one of them asked. At the same time, he brought over a few freshly grilled oysters. The oyster sauce and garlic were smeared on the oysters. Zhang Xiaobao took the oysters and thanked the person before he replied, "Yes, we're in the business. We're in a big business that benefits the country and the people. We're not ordinary people." "Are really? Did you pay for the academy?" Lu Zhou's academy is funded by the Zhang family and the Wang family. "How many of the children in the academy are you in the capital? Do you provide clothes or food?" The person who brought the food over asked. It seemed like only merchants who helped the academy were good merchants. Li Longji thought about it for a moment before he shook his head and said, "I'm ashamed to say that I didn't provide any financial help to any of the academies. I didn't help the small academies, but I did help the big academies." However, the effect wasn't obvious. They're far inferior to the Reeds and Reeds Academy. Instead of studying diligently, those with ambition went to the Reeds and Reeds Academy. Even if it was not easy to graduate from that academy, they were still willing to squeeze in. Just thinking about it made him feel hateful. Why couldn't my academy do the same? In the future, I'll find an opportunity to ask for the Jinjia Academy. Don't give it to the Zhang family and Wang family. It's not theirs anyway, it's by shoes. Huh. Boast. Boast with all your might. You want to get the Reeds and Reeds Academy? Haha, it's not that I'm looking down on you. But if you really don't want to go, yes, it's by Darren's, but it's also the Zhang family and Wang families. It's right next to the restaurant between the clouds and the water in Sanshui County. To put it bluntly, not to mention you, even the current emperor would not be able to get it even if he wanted to. What do you think? The person who heard Li Longji's words laughed and pointed at Li Longji. That's right, that's right. Even the emperor can't do anything about it. Otherwise, why do people say that the emperor of Sanshui County can't do anything about it? They don't want to admit it. Sad, really sad. Li Longji said with a sigh. If you keep spouting nonsense, I'll really hit you. Seeing Li Longji mention this again, the person on the opposite side glared at him and threatened him. However, he did not press his finger again. It was estimated that he had pressed the button once and could not make a sound now. Another person followed and said, "You said that you were from the capital. Don't you know that the Reeds and Reeds Academy is a place for the emperor to cultivate talents? You said before that it's not easy to graduate from the academy. But why don't you say that once you graduate from the academy, you can immediately be arranged to be a capable official in charge of a region?" Yes, it's for the emperor to cultivate. That's awesome. The Reeds and Reeds Academy is awesome. Those who come to take the imperial examination don't need to cheat. They rely on their true abilities and won't fail the examination. Moreover, it's more convenient for them to be arranged than other people in the examination. He can be assigned to any position he wants, unlike some people who were ranked at the top during the examinations. But when it came to the specifics of being a local official, they were clueless. This year's top scorer is Zhang Xiaobao, and the fall quarter examinations are coming soon. We still don't know who it will be. Hopefully, there will be someone more impressive than Zhang Xiaobao, someone who can casually write songs. Li Longji deliberately said that. In fact, he was mocking Zhang Xiaobao. You could have just written a poem when you have nothing to do. Why did you have to spend so much effort to write songs? There are so many words. It's obvious that you're just making up the word count. There can't be a better top scorer than Xiaobao, unless it's Xiaobao's father, the provincial governor of Luzhou. Oh, he's now the Minister of Works in the imperial court. He and his father are both top scorers. When Xiaobao's younger brothers and sisters grow up and take the imperial examination, there will be more top scorers. This is especially true for Little Yuan and Little Hai. One of them took the Jinshe examination, while the other took the mathematics examination. The two of them took the first place in both examinations. That's great. One of the people chimed in, as though he was the one who had the final say on who was the top scorer. Xiao Bei was distributing jelly to the three children. When he heard the person's words, he asked, "Can Xiao Bei do it? If Xiao Bei studies hard, he can also be the top scorer, right?" "Yes, Xiao Bei can do it too." Xiao Bei is the cutest. The person who spoke earlier quickly praised Xiao Bei again. Xiao Bei narrowed his eyes in satisfaction as he chuckled. Li Longji accompanied the other party and chatted with them. As they chatted, the sky started to brighten. Thinking that his team should be arriving soon, Li Longji discussed with the person who said he had a car. "Let's go. We're going to a place in a while. It's very far away. It's fine for adults to walk there, but there are 9 children. Can you give us a ride? We can discuss the price, but can your car fit all 9 children?" "A car? 9 of them? You have a good number of children." 9. Xiao Bei and the others also have 9 people. There are also 5 girls and 4 boys. All of them are good-looking. If someone doesn't know better, they'll believe you if you say they're 9 patrol inspectors, right? The person who said he had a car asked someone else. Someone else immediately agreed. Then they decided to accompany the group of people. There were more than 20 people who had a car. There were 2 other people who had a car. There were 3 cars, so it was definitely not a problem to carry 9 children. Usually, a car would carry at least 4 people. Even if there were 9 more children, it would still be able to carry them. They could bring the other 3 children along with them. As for the money, they did not ask for it. Today was a good day, and they did not lack a day's pay. Everyone was happy together. After the children got into the car, Zhang Xiaobao pointed in the north and said, "Head north." Some of them were local, so they naturally bade farewell to the others. Apart from those who also lived in the north, the others also rushed back to their homes. They wanted to have a good rest. When the emperor arrived, they would have to welcome him again. The carriage traveled on the paved road. Li Longji, who was here for the first time, could finally see more of the scenery during the day. The road before him, the books by the roadside, and the gardens behind the trees made him feel that Luzhou's situation was not inferior to that of the capital. In fact, the number of gardens in Luzhou surpassed the number of gardens in the capital. It was not a continuous stretch of forest. Instead, it was a garden formed behind a few rows of trees. At the same time, there were small paths that led to various places. There were many man-made canals as well. The canals gurgled with water. If he did not know this was Luzhou, he would have thought he was in a garden. Beautiful, truly beautiful. Living in Luzhou puts me in a good mood every day. Apart from the scenery in Sanshui County, I don't think there's anything else that's similar. Even the capital can't compare. Although there's a palace in the capital, and there are gardens and running water in the palace, it's not enough. It's much smaller than Luzhou's. Li Longji sighed emotionally as he walked along the road. Then he asked, how much did it cost to cultivate such a beautiful scenery? It didn't cost much. Back then, during the rebuilding process after the flood, the layout was already done. Then, the trees were transplanted. The flower beds behind the trees were originally empty. The locals found it unsightly, so they moved the rocks from the sea to the shore when they had the time. When the Zhang and Wang families' business stewards saw that someone was consciously building a garden, they provided seeds that were suitable for growing plants in the garden. They also brought over tools that were handy and occasionally provided a meal for them. The locals slowly cultivated the garden day after day. Now, some of the flowers have withered. If you look closely, you'll see that even the withered flowers weren't picked up by the locals. Instead, they were piled up under the flower beds in the garden. They were waiting to be dried and used as fertilizer. Hence, the locals consciously protected Lu Zhou's environment. Even the youngest children wouldn't pluck the flowers. When they encountered insects, they would even take them down and trample them to death. Hence, the beauty of the garden isn't just its own beauty. Zhang Xiaobao explained the formation of the garden. Little brother, you know quite a lot. That's right. None of us in Lu Zhou pluck the flowers. When we pass by, we'll help those who were knocked down by the wind and rain. We want Lu Zhou's garden to be the largest and best in Tang. This is our home. If the flood destroyed it, we'll rebuild it. However, we're worried that we'll destroy our own home. If that happened, we'd lose our home even if the flood didn't come. Every one of us is meticulously taking care of every inch of land and every plant. We tell ourselves that it wasn't easy for us to have such a good life. We're also waiting for Governor Zhang to come and take a look. Unfortunately, Governor Zhang is still in the capital this year and isn't coming. However, it's good that the two madams, Xiaobao, and the others are coming. I'm sure they'll be very happy when they see this. There's also the crocodile garden in the distance. We've built a bridge and guardrails above the swamp where the crocodiles live. The crocodiles can't go up and can only stay below. If you want to see the crocodiles, you can just stand on the bridge and watch. It's free. You don't have to spend any money. All the places are free, including the children's amusement park. It's the one with the huge maze. However, it costs money to feed the crocodiles. We'll use the money to repair the amusement park and the place where the crocodiles live. The coachman waved the whip in the air leisurely as he explained other things to Li Longji and the others. Li Longji thought of the amusement park in Jili province and asked, "The amusement park doesn't cost money? What about the food?" No. Those who go to the amusement park are either local children or those who have the money to bring their children on a trip. Most of them are businessmen who do business and bring their children out to broaden their horizons. When they look at the goods, they'll hand their children over to the amusement park. The taxes they pay for the goods they buy will naturally help Lu Zhou. Since the local children won't accept money, their children won't accept money either. Unless they want to eat something that the amusement park doesn't prepare for them, they'll have to spend money to buy it. Our amusement park has a rule. If you want to buy something from the outside, you can't just buy food for your child. You have to buy food for as many children as there are in the amusement park. Otherwise, you're not allowed to send food into the amusement park. Even if your family is rich, don't think of making your child look more precious than the other children in the amusement park. The coachman said proudly. Li Longji remembered the same thing in Jili province. At that time, there was a provincial governor's child who wanted to cause trouble. In the end, Xiao Bei taught his father a lesson. However, Xiao Bei kept giving in to the child. In the end, the child insisted on mentioning his father. After that, it was over. Xiao Bei didn't teach the child a lesson. Instead, she taught the adult a lesson. That child was really stupid. In Xiao Bao's words, he was a child who cheated his father. When he thought of this, Li Longji laughed and said, "That's right. No matter what their status is in other places, as long as they're in a place with the same rules, they must treat the children as equals." Even Xiao Bei and the others never show off how rich they are in front of the other children, let alone those who are extremely rich. Once there's a distance between them while playing, they will lose a lot of good friends. Even if someone comes over to cheer them up, they're not sincere. If they lose the happiness they deserve, what's the point of playing? That's right. No one can compare to our families, Xiao Bei and Xiao Yuan. The coachman was even more proud. Xiao Bei, who was in the carriage, heard the conversation outside and muttered, "Whose family do we belong to?" "We belong to everyone. You belong to my family. When we grow up, this is how our brothers and sisters will arrange it." Xiao Yuan told Xiao Bei, "You belong to my family. You can be my son-in-law. Otherwise, I won't want you anymore. In the future, I won't even give you candy." Xiao Bei laughed as he said this. He felt that he was like other children who would only play with them if they gave them candy. The coachman didn't hear any movement in the carriage. When it was noon, the group stopped to rest and eat. After an hour, they continued on their journey. When it was dusk, the first one who couldn't walk was Wang Ju. Her eyes were looking forward, hoping to see a large group of people quickly so that they could escape from the sea of suffering. Li Longji and Gao Lishir were still able to persevere, but Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't seem to be affected. "Where exactly are you going?" The coachman also noticed that Wang Ju was tired and asked in confusion. Just as he finished asking, many figures appeared in the distance. They looked densely packed. He was shocked. "This is them. Ah, the emperor's group is here." The coachman wasn't stupid and guessed who it was. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Longji sat on the shaft of the carriage next to him and said, "We're going to meet up with them. We're in charge of being the vanguard. I've already fulfilled your wish." "My wish? What wish?" The coachman didn't understand why these people insisted on sitting on his carriage when they were about to meet up with the emperor, since they were supposed to be the vanguard. Xiao Bei poked her head out of the small window behind the coachman and said, "When we were eating at night, didn't you say that you wanted to use your carriage to meet the emperor? Now your wish has been fulfilled. Uncle Emperor is sitting on your carriage. Although it's only for a while, your other wish has also been fulfilled, because I'm sitting on your carriage and following you all the way." Chapter 11:13. The coachman was not stupid. As soon as he heard Little Bei's words, he immediately reacted. He looked at the person sitting on the shaft and thought about the 9 children on the other side. He was extremely excited. He no longer knew how to swing the whip in his hand. He hastily jumped off the carriage and opened his mouth. He did not know what to say. The other 2 coachmen did not hear Little Bei's words. When they saw the person in front of them jumping off the carriage, they looked at him curiously, wondering why he had jumped off the carriage. After a few breaths, the coachman with Li Longji on the shaft knew what he had to do. He kneeled on the ground and kowtowed to Li Longji. "Your Majesty, it's really you. Long live your Majesty. I told you. Who would have such a bearing? Apart from the children of the Zhang family and the Wang family, no one else would have such a bearing." The coachman stopped and kowtowed. The horse pulling the carriage did not recognize the emperor and continued to move forward. Zhang Xiaobao hastily stopped the carriage. He said to the coachman, who was kneeling about 10 meters behind him, "Get up and drive the carriage." "Yes, drive the carriage. His Majesty is in my carriage, and the children of the Zhang family and the Wang family are in my carriage as well. In the future, this carriage can no longer carry other people. I'll keep it. I'll buy a new carriage. Yes, I'll buy a new carriage and use a new carriage to carry people. I told you. Who would have such a bearing? I told you." The coachman hastily got up and drove the carriage again. However, he did not continue to sit on the carriage. He looked as though he did not dare to sit with the emperor as he followed the carriage. He kept mumbling incoherently as he followed the carriage. The other 2 coachmen finally understood what was going on. They jumped off the carriage and followed the carriage excitedly. Just like the previous coachman, they kept mumbling as though it was contagious. Li Longji shook his head helplessly. He did not believe the coachman when he said he had such a bearing. If he really had such a bearing, why did he not recognize him earlier? If he was recognized, it meant that his disguise was too fake. He had not reached the level where he could infiltrate the common folk. Then he looked at the other 2 coachmen and their carriages. He knew that the 3 carriages would be retired from today onward. Even the horses pulling the carriages would have to follow suit. He wanted to persuade them that it did not matter who sat in the carriage, since it was not a waste of money. However, he remembered that this was Lu Zhou's territory. Lu Zhou's men were relatively wealthy. They did not mind spending a few horses and 3 carriages. Hence, he did not say anything. She wanted to say a few words to the enchanted coachman, but found that the coachman had clearly entered some kind of immortal state. She guessed that no matter what she said, the coachman would not be able to adjust his mind. She could only helplessly shake her head and sit on the shaft of the carriage to join the group. There were more than 30,000 people in the army, and only the vanguard had arrived. The rest would probably have to wait for another day before they could leave the mountain. Once they arrived at a place with more spacious roads, their speed would naturally be faster. The coachman escorted Li Longji all the way to the front of the group before stopping. He didn't dare to look directly at Li Longji. He glanced sideways at Li Longji from time to time before quickly lowering his head. Li Longji knew that it wasn't that the other party didn't respect him, but that they were cowards. It seemed that those who hadn't interacted much with him were all like this when they saw him, and there was one who was even more serious. The only ones who were particularly calm when they saw him were Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. They had never been nervous when they first saw him, and there was also Little Bei and the others. Li Longji knew that people were different from each other. He leaped down from the shaft of the carriage and said to the coachman, "Thank you for escorting me all the way here. I won't be paying for the ride. Tomorrow, I'll treat Lu Zhou's people to a meal. All of you should come as well." "Thank you, Your Majesty. You don't have to pay for it. Even if you do, I don't want it. I'm willing to pull the carriage for free. In the future, whenever you want to ride in my carriage, I'll pull the carriage for free." The coachman was still nervous. He kept repeating the same words. "If I ride in your carriage in the future, won't I have to keep you at home and feed you? That's too high of a price. Men, reward me." Li Longji said to the coachman with a smile on his face. He instructed someone to deliver the reward. There was no money. It was all cloth and food. He couldn't let the other party pull the carriage for free. Then, he no longer bothered with the 3 coachmen. Naturally, someone would make the arrangements. Li Longji returned to the group. Under the service of the others, he changed into the emperor's clothes and began to rest. He waited for someone to send the news to the provincial capital so that the welcoming party could proceed. The 9 children took this opportunity to rest. They had been busy the entire night and did not sleep at all. They were very excited. When they sat in the carriage earlier, they only took a short nap. Now, they were even more sleepy. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan found a place to sleep as well. Naturally, someone would send the news to the provincial capital. They would make 2 trips in between to inform them of the emperor's arrival. Last night, the people who had just finished welcoming the madams of the Zhang and Wang families were busy again when they heard the news of the emperor's arrival. Some of them were busy making banners, while others were busy thinking of what to shout. They did not care about the rules of the emperor's arrival. That day, Li Longji didn't continue on his way to the provincial capital. Instead, he waited. He waited for another night to give the person receiving him some time to prepare and rest. Only then did he sit in his carriage the next day and head for the provincial capital. Naturally, he was warmly welcomed by the people. It was no different from when they welcomed the 2 madams of the Zhangwang clan. The only person who was different was Su Mingyang. Right now, he could not describe his feelings. He could not say whether it was anticipation, excitement, fear, or nervousness. When he welcomed the Zhangwang clan the day before yesterday, the people did not care about him. It was a good hungry ghost festival, but he was very depressed. Today, the people called him to come together and pushed him to the front. The emperor's arrival was an official matter. The officials naturally had to follow the official rules. Su Mingyang was a provincial governor. Naturally, he had seen the emperor before. However, he had not seen him many times. To be precise, he had only seen him twice. The first time was during the imperial examinations. The second time was when he became a local official. He could not remember what the emperor looked like at all. The only thing he remembered was the emperor's dragon robe. After the welcoming ceremony, the people gathered like a tidal wave and escorted Li Longji to the center of the hall. Then they dispersed and discussed the events of the past 2 days. The Zhang Wang clan and Madame Wang came out to meet the emperor as well. Then they went to another courtyard to talk with Empress Wang and Wu Huifei. Inside the spacious hall, Li Longji looked down at Su Mingyang, who was bowing for the second time. He asked, "Su Qing, what did you gain from staying in Luzhou?" Su Mingyang could not control his nervousness. Although he was seated, his legs were still trembling. When he heard the emperor's question, he hastily rose to his feet and replied, "Good. Everything is good." "What's good?" Li Longji frowned and asked again. "Everywhere is good. The mountains are good, the water is good, and the people are good. Also, Luzhou has a lot of money. However, I don't have the means to check the accounts. I don't know how much money Luzhou has earned, and if he has paid the taxes according to the regulations. I also don't know if the locals have enough time to work every year." Su Mingyang finally remembered that he was going to complain. He put himself in a very wrong position so that he could avoid the danger of being rude to the Zhang Wang clan. When he was talking to the emperor, his eyes were looking at the ground, but he always glanced at Xiao Bei and the other 9 people who had also changed into official robes. He was afraid that Xiao Bei and the other 9 children would hear some rumors and not give him any chance to explain, so they would arrest him. Little Bei and the others had long known about this. They were very angry, but they did not think it was meaningful to bully a foreign official. Therefore, they did not think of doing anything to Su Mingyang. They treated him like a fart and let him go. After all, he was going to leave after a year of service. At most, they would deduct a small part of the money that was supposed to be given to him before he left as a punishment. They had planned to let Su Mingyang go, but they did not expect that Su Mingyang would dare to speak ill of them in front of them. What did he mean by not knowing the taxes and work? Luzhou was not an ordinary province. It was flourishing now. Moreover, there were rules governing the various fees collected. There were taxes collected and refunded. The accounts were concise, but the contents were complicated. Ordinary people would not be able to understand them. Luzhou was the largest port for imports and exports. Luzhou was the largest port for imports and exports. Not only did he have to manage the local taxes and agriculture, but he also had to manage the customs, the research of ordnance, and the cost of the military. There were also some things that could not be said to others. Did he have to tell a provincial governor who was going to stay for a year and leave? Li Longji also understood what had happened 2 nights ago. He felt that Su Mingyang wasn't a threat to the Zhang clan and Wang clan, so he didn't want to bother with him. Once Su Mingyang was done with his time, he could just move on to another place and get promoted. Now that he heard that Su Mingyang was looking for something to do, he decided that after Su Mingyang finished his year of service and left, he would not give him an important position, let alone a position in the capital. He would arrange for him to be a provincial governor in another place without changing his rank. With this thought in mind, Li Longji made a sound through his nose, indicating that he understood. He waved his hand and signaled Su Mingyang to leave. At the side, Gao Lisher reminded him, "Provincial Governor Su, His Majesty has asked you to attend to the matters in the mansion. You can leave now." Su Mingyang was afraid. He did not know what he said wrong. He gritted his teeth and pretended that he did not understand the emperor's intention to leave. He followed Gao Lisher's words and said, "Speaking of the matters in the provincial capital, I have something to say. I don't know if I should say it." "Even if you don't know whether you should say it or not, what else do you want to say? Leave now." Li Longji did not need to think too much to know what Su Mingyang wanted to do. Su Mingyang wanted to continue complaining about the things he said by the bonfire 2 nights ago to sow discord. If Su Mingyang really said it out loud, he would have to teach him a lesson. At that time, he would have to send someone else to be the provincial governor. He did not want to see too many changes in Lu Zhou's position. After all, he was only here for a vacation. He was not here to deal with people. Yes, Your Majesty. Su Mingyang had no choice but to leave for now. He planned to look for an opportunity to speak to the emperor. He could not just leave Liu Zhou. After Su Mingyang left, Liu Bei leaped out and looked at the door as she said, "Humph. He's really bold. How dare he complain in front of us?" Liu Yuan said angrily, "We won't give him a single copper coin after he's done serving as the provincial governor for a year. Does he think he's so great?" Li Longji laughed out loud as well. He said to Liu Bei, "He's a rank 3 official, after all. I can understand. If you were an official in a place and the people don't listen to you and treat you like a decoration, you'd be unhappy as well. You'd still have to give them the money they deserve." Xiao Bei rolled his eyes and said, "Me? If it were me, if the people didn't listen to me, I wouldn't be an official for them. I've been a local official before a county magistrate. It's just that there are fewer people in the county. I don't understand why they have to change provincial governors every year. Why do they have to go back and forth? Their ships take months to travel to and from one place to another. Are their families so poor that they don't even have enough to eat? Why do they have to come to Liu Zhou to get some money? If I were in charge, Liu Zhou shouldn't have a provincial governor. When the time comes, my family can just pay the money to the court every year. It doesn't matter if there's an official or not. Right, big brother?" At this moment, Liu Bei was confused. He expressed his thoughts to his brother. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and shook his head. He explained to his sister, "Liu Zhou needs a provincial governor. Without an official sent by the court, is Liu Zhou still Great Tang's Liu Zhou? Not to mention Liu Zhou, who was directly under the rule of the Great Tang. Even the regional commanders in other places were given their positions because the imperial court could not manage them. The people there were not as loyal to the Great Tang as the people of the Great Tang. There are also other vassal states. Back then, didn't they need to be appointed by Great Tang's court as well? Even if the people who appointed them were chosen, they still had to be managed by Great Tang in name. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for them to be completely under Great Tang's control in the future. Do you understand now? Oh, so it's to occupy space. It's just a sign. Even if there's a change in management in the future, with the sign, it'll give them an excuse, right?" Liu Bei was very smart. He had learned a lot and understood what Liu Zhou was trying to say. After he finished speaking, he laughed and said, "Why do I feel like the affairs of the country are a lie? It's clearly something that everyone knows, but they still have to pretend. Interesting. Right now, the small countries in Tubo are no longer a threat. Some of them even took the initiative to submit. This is strength. If they don't have the status of a province or county, do you think they'll dare to break away in the future? Yes, they really dare. When their strength is about the same, if they don't have the status, they'll use it as an excuse to regain independence. They're not afraid now, but who knows what will happen hundreds or thousands of years later." Zhang Xiaobao nodded and said, he knew very well the importance of strength and status. Otherwise, there would be endless arguments when the time came. Liu Bei's eyes continued to move. Suddenly, he clapped his hands and suggested, "Uncle Emperor, I have a very good suggestion. I don't know if I should say it." Of course, Liu Bei's suggestion is definitely a good idea. Tell Uncle Emperor about it. This time, Li Longji didn't stop Liu Bei from speaking like he did to Su Mingyang just now. "My idea is that we should send more ships out. We don't have to do business with the natives every time we send out. There are many places where the people are not civilized yet. We'll go and plant flags there. Then we'll put a lot of things with Great Tang's words written on them. For example, our porcelain and stone tablets with Great Tang's words engraved on them. Wherever the ships can reach, we'll put a lot of them there. Even if we can't send more people to live there, we still have to do it, okay?" After Liu Bei explained his idea, he blinked his eyes and looked at Li Longji, waiting for his praise. Li Longji also stared at Liu Bei and asked, "Why do you want to do this?" "Why? Because that place is Great Tang's territory. We can't go over and occupy it now. We can only trade with the natives there. However, trade and ownership are two different things. If it's like what Big Brother said in the future, and the people in other places become smarter and have martial arts similar to us, they'll say that that place is theirs. We'll trade with them. Oh, it's called trade. It's a commercial activity. A commercial activity doesn't represent a ruling position, so it doesn't belong to Great Tang. We'll put the things there now. Some will be exposed, some will be buried in the ground. After many years, if they don't want to acknowledge us, we'll dig them up. We'll let others see what's written on the stone tablets. We'll let them see what's written in that place in the Kaiyuan era. Then, they won't be able to say anything. Even if they still want to establish themselves as a country, we'll have an excuse to beat them up. We'll be on the side of justice, okay? Lil Bei waved his fist and explained excitedly. Xiao Yuan also echoed, yes, yes, yes. Not only do we have to write the words, we also have to draw a map on the utensils and stone tablets. We'll draw a map of Great Tang and label their place as a province of Great Tang. We'll have to make a lot of things that won't rot easily. This is to prevent them from destroying them after digging them up and not acknowledging our position. Good idea. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan heard their younger brother and sister's words, they were stunned for a moment. Then, they looked at each other and saw smiles in each other's eyes. Good idea. It was indeed a good idea. Of course, if the other party really had the strength, it wouldn't matter even if they had the things to prove it. But the good thing was that they could have more cultural relics in the future. They could exchange them for a lot of money. How many empires did the other party have back then? Those were true rulers, but in the end, they were still divided into small countries. But when one's strength was lacking, the Great Tang had the right to occupy it. This was morally justifiable. And even if the locals wanted to resist, they would feel a tinge of melancholy. It was easier to integrate than to have no name at all. Li Longji was also stunned. He didn't expect the children to come up with such a shameless idea. So he nodded and said, "That's right. In the future, we'll do this. Not only will we be going over to steal their resources, we'll also be establishing their status. We won't just be doing trade, we'll be ruling. That's right. We've decided. We'll give a decree to the merchants going out to sea. If the local people don't agree..." As Li Longji spoke, he glanced at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, hoping that the two of them would complete the plan. Any other official would have been dumbfounded by this sudden idea, but Li Longji felt that Xiaobao and Cuckoo wouldn't have thought of anything. No matter how sudden it was, the two of them would immediately react. Sure enough, just as he thought, Zhang Xiaobao spoke just as he raised his voice and looked over. "Your Majesty, this subject feels that there are many natives who don't even have their own language. Thus, we can just say that we'll rule them. They won't resist, nor will they have the will to resist. As for those places that have a longer history than China, we can use trade to buy those places from them. In any case, they don't need that much land. We can use things to trade, and once we get our hands on those places, we can build buildings that suit Great Tang style and characteristics. In fact, we don't even need to send our own soldiers to protect those places. As long as the merchants hire the local people to be in charge of law and order, we can give them things and have them protect us. Tell them that if they don't protect us well and steal our things, we won't go over there in the future. We won't trade with them anymore. Great Tang's products are quite good, especially silk, spices, and ceramics." Zhang Xiaobao recalled some of the historical records that Wang Wan had told him. At that time, China's products were advanced and valuable in the eyes of outsiders. They could even lead the trends of other places. The people of other places were proud of having something from China and showed their status. To an unimaginable extent, they didn't use China's spices as spices. Instead, they made something like a pouch and hung it on their bodies to give off a fragrance. When the nobles gathered, if they didn't have something from China on them, they would feel that their status was lower than others. If they couldn't take out China's ceramics when they were eating, they would feel embarrassed to treat them. In the end, the country's strength declined because the emperor system that looked good now was too influenced by human factors. If an emperor was useless, the entire country was finished. Therefore, the people of other places didn't need to use much force. They just needed to sell their advanced products to China, and China would take the initiative to protect them. Since people were the same, Great Tang could do the same now. Wang Wan also thought of this point and said excitedly, "As for the local natives, if there are too many of them, we can kidnap them and turn them into slaves. Some people with dark skin are good at work and have strength. Although they are a little lazy and not as hardworking as the people of Great Tang and the surrounding places, their physique is much better. But their physiques are much stronger than those of our Great Tang, and their adaptability isn't weak either, especially when it comes to sports. The only shortcoming is that they develop slowly. Let alone now, even many years later, they still probably won't develop very well." Wang Wan almost let the cat out of the bag. She thought of the matter of capturing and selling slaves. Although this kind of thing would be criticized in other places, so what? The African people in America didn't live in North America originally. Even the Caucasians migrated over later. Who could say that they would bring the African and Caucasians back to their ancestral land? Capture slaves to work? The idea is not bad, but are they going to send them to Great Tang or keep them in their local area? If they are kept in their local area, why do we give them benefits and let them work on their own? If they are sent to Great Tang, how are they going to interact with the people of Great Tang? Li Longji had an as expected expression on his face. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were indeed amazing. The two of them immediately perfected the idea as soon as he came up with it. But at the same time, he felt that the two of them didn't want to capture a few slaves. They didn't want to capture more than 1 million people to build the railway. They wanted to capture more to an unimaginable extent, and it wouldn't be easy to deal with them. As for capturing slaves, he supported it. Slaves were normal, and it wasn't a big deal. In his mind, there was no concept of equality for everyone. Otherwise, there wouldn't be servants and eunuchs in Great Tang. Zhang Xiaobao lowered his head and thought for a moment before saying, "We should send people over to that side now and bring the locals over. Then we can place them in Great Tang. At the same time, we can trade with the locals. One of our ceramic plates can be exchanged for many local goods. They are poor and their technology isn't advanced. It's just that I asked the merchants to not squeeze into a cabin with so many people. If we capture 1,000 slaves, there will only be 100 left when we reach Great Tang. That won't do. That would be truly vicious, even more vicious than using the slaves to build the railway to kill people. At the very least, we have to show their worth. Actually, we aren't capturing them, but buying them. The people over there don't have any human rights, so we have to spend money to buy them over. Other than the fact that many people will die from building the railway, the other jobs might be more tiring, but they won't cause a large number of deaths. Their relationship with the people of Great Tang is also very good. They will first be slaves and then work. When Great Tang develops further, we will provide them with the same benefits. Great Tang has an advantage that no other place can compare to, and that is the high integration rate. No matter where the people are, as long as they come to Great Tang and live there for a few generations, they will be able to become a citizen of Great Tang." Wang Wan nodded at the side, expressing her agreement. Since there were already many ethnic groups, a few more wouldn't make a difference. When she and Zhang Xiaobao were still alive, racial discrimination still existed in the United States, but China didn't. It wasn't just because of policy, but also because human nature played a very important role. Xiao Bei and the 9 children were confused. They hadn't seen too many things and weren't clear about the problems between ethnic groups. They only knew that in the future, there might be more people who looked different from them in Great Tang. Hearing that they were going to capture people, and that it would hurt them, Xiao Bei put on a sad expression and said, "Don't capture them. We'll give them good food to eat and let them come over, okay? If they have the strength, let them do manual labor. But don't always work without food, okay? All right, since Xiao Bei has said so, how can it not be good? This emperor will immediately issue a decree to give the merchants an additional order, for them to try their best to travel as far as possible. Furthermore, when they reach a place, according to what Xiao Bao and Wan Wan said, if they can occupy it, then occupy it. If they can't, then buy it. Let them treat the slaves better, so that they won't feel resentful when they come to work, and they won't find an opportunity to revolt. That won't be good. Li Longji directly decided. As for where they would be sent to work and how much the slaves would be worth, it wasn't something he needed to worry about. Someone else would take care of it. After discussing this matter, Li Longji and the others went to rest first. After they had rested and adapted to the local environment, Li Longji still had to travel to the ends of the earth and enter the 100,000 mountains. The next morning, Su Mingyang came in the name of paying a visit. He hadn't eaten yet, so he waited for Li Longji and the others to finish eating before meeting him. After greeting Lu Zhou, he produced a thick memorial and had Gao Lisher present it. It seemed like Gao Lisher hadn't rested since he returned yesterday. Li Longji did not look at the memorial. Instead, he looked at Su Mingyang and asked him to speak. Your Majesty, I've seen and heard many things in Lu Zhou for many days. Hence, I have a few ideas. I thought I'd tell you when I returned to the capital to report on my work, but since your Majesty has personally come to Lu Zhou, I'll tell you now. Su Mingyang stood there as he spoke to Li Longji. Li Longji and Wei Wei nodded. Speak. Yes. Firstly, I've noticed that the various matters related to Lu Zhou's ports are not managed by the Imperial Court. Instead, it's managed by the Merchants' Alliance. The Imperial Court has no way of knowing how much the goods are taxed and how much they are sold for. Although there are special accounts, when the accounts are made, no one from the Imperial Court is keeping an eye on them. If that's the case, or if there's a case of tax evasion that isn't beneficial to the Imperial Court's finances, we can let the Imperial Court handle the matters of import and export. The Merchant Association is only a place for merchants to communicate with each other. Su Mingyang raised the first question. His expression was one of loyalty to the country. He was solemn and stern. Little Bei, who had come to join in the fun, pursed her lips. She did not believe Su Mingyang was truly devoted to the country. He was clearly looking for trouble. Li Longji could not directly say that the current situation was the best. However, he could only say that compared to the officials sent by the Imperial Court, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's family members were the most reliable. It was impossible for them to leak the taxes. He could not say these words now. Hence, he looked at Su Mingyang and waited for him to speak. Su Mingyang seemed to have been encouraged. He said, secondly, Lu Zhou's ordnance processing should be moved to the capital with the Ministry of Works. It can't continue to be in Lu Zhou's hands. In the capital's Ministry of Works, at the very least, there should be officials from the Imperial Court watching and supervising. If it continues to be in Lu Zhou's hands, the Imperial Court won't know the exact number of ordnance produced. If someone sells them privately and supplies them to places outside of Great Tang, the Imperial Court won't know if that's the case. When there's a war, the Imperial Court won't have enough information, and there will be more casualties. It's quite a serious matter. Su Mingyang wanted to remove Lu Zhou's ordnance processing from Lu Zhou. Li Longji still didn't say anything, but his gaze towards Su Mingyang had a different meaning. If Su Mingyang was closer, he would be able to feel it. The emperor was beginning to dislike him. Su Mingyang was at least 20 steps away from the emperor. He could not see the emperor's eyes clearly. After saying the second point, he paused for a moment before he said, thirdly, the people in Lu Zhou should move to another place to live. The people from other places should be moved to Lu Zhou. The people in Lu Zhou are already very wealthy. Moreover, they seem to be less loyal to you, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, you only arrived yesterday, so you're not aware of what happened. The way the people welcome you is the same as how they welcome the madams of the Zhang family and the Wang family. In order to protect the reputation of the Zhang family and the Wang family, I think it's best for them to migrate. After saying the third point, Su Mingyang heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like there was no fourth point. However, he did not dare to look at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He did not even dare to look at Xiao Bei and the others from the corner of his eyes. Li Longji sighed and said to Su Mingyang, Su Qing, I already know about the scale of the welcome you mentioned. That day, I was at the back of the crowd with Xiao Bao and the others. When they were kneeling, I was sitting on the ground. I saw it and heard what they said from the front. As for what you said about the lack of loyalty of the locals to me, I tested it out when I was roasting food around the bonfire with the locals that night. You don't know enough yet. Go back and think about it carefully. Understand more about it. You may leave. Li Longji's tone was very calm, as if he was chatting with Su Mingyang. However, when his words reached Su Mingyang's ears, it was tantamount to a sudden clap of thunder in his head. He was stunned. His face turned pale, and cold sweat broke out all over his body. He gasped for breath and said in a trembling voice, I understand. I didn't understand everything. I know I'm wrong. As he spoke, he retreated. He did not turn around and leave. Just when he was about to retreat to the door, Xiao Bei said angrily, Su Mingyang, I'll remember you. Just you wait. Today, in front of Uncle Emperor, I'll endure it for a while. When Uncle Emperor isn't here, you'll see how I'll deal with you. Illness comes from the mouth, and disaster comes from the mouth. I'll let you know what it means. Su Mingyang was worried. When he heard Xiao Bei's words, he tripped over the doorsill and fell with a thud. His face was unsightly. It seemed like he had fallen hard. I serve the country wholeheartedly for the country. Su Mingyang gritted his teeth and got up. He muttered in a voice that was neither too loud nor too soft. He trembled as he left with the fastest speed. He didn't dare to look at Xiao Bei. If he didn't do well, he might get sick when he returned. Xiao Bei, look at how you've scared Su Qing. Li Shi, arrange for the imperial physician to take a look at Su Qing. Don't hurt her body. He. Li Longji instructed Xiao Bei as he made arrangements for Gao Li Shi. He had to put on an act to let Su Mingyang know that the emperor had no intention of dealing with him. Otherwise, he might really be scared to death. He didn't commit a crime of beheading. No matter what, the matter that Su Mingyang mentioned did exist. It wouldn't kill him. Xiao Bei chuckled. He's scared because he has a guilty conscience. He has a guilty conscience. He can't see the situation. Initially, I didn't plan to do anything to him. I just wanted to accumulate some good karma for my unborn younger brother and sister. However, he insisted on walking into the muzzle of the gun. He's too hateful. He even wants to play the role of a tragic character. Uncle Emperor, do you see what kind of idea he came up with? He's trying to sow discord between us. Yesterday, the people around the bonfire said, so well, we should let him roast by the bonfire. He'll be beaten to death by others. Yesterday, those people really wanted to beat him up. They want to sow discord. They're too bad, right, Uncle Emperor? Yes, the people who are trying to sow discord don't have good intentions. What about the first 2 points? Tell me, Li Longji asked Xiao Bei with a smile. The first 2 points? What was the first 2 points? Oh, I remember. It's the place where the weapons are made. We have to move them to the Ministry of Works. How can we put them in one place? If something happens, they'll all be blown up. Also, there's only the Yellow River next to the capital. Luzhou, on the other hand, has the sea. If we want to test new weapons on the sea, we can test them in the sea. How can we test them on the Yellow River? Where should we fire? What should we do if we hit someone? He didn't think it through when he spoke. He even wrote such a thick piece of paper. Stupid, really stupid. The first point is the import and export tariffs and prices. Leave it to my family. I'm rich, and my subordinates are loyal. They won't dare to take advantage of me. Otherwise, they'll supervise each other. If one of them reports him, he'll be finished. However, who will the imperial court send? Who can resist the temptation of a businessman's bribe? Putting everything else aside, how many people can resist the temptation of transporting a fleet of oars from the new island and bribing the officials sent by the imperial court with the earnings from the oars? It won't be a problem if we leave it to my family. What's a ship of oars worth? Our candy store chain earns much more than them. They can't afford to bribe us. It's only natural that we have to follow the rules. Su Mingyang disgusts me to death. If you ask me, we should get a few more officials with the same position and let them play with each other. Right, brother? Xiao Bei directly rejected the first 2 points that Su Mingyang had mentioned. He even found fault with them. Then, he raised his head and waited for the praise. Zhang Xiaobao immediately said, "See? My younger brother and sister are smart, much smarter than Su Mingyang. He's only clever in petty matters, but he's still stupid. However, Xiao Bei, we can't send too many officials here. Yesterday, we said that the imperial court would send officials to Lu Zhou. Apart from giving Lu Zhou the seal of Great Tang, it's more important for the other forces in the capital." What forces? What do Lu Zhou's officials have to do with them? Xiao Bei did not understand this time. They're the important ministers in the imperial court, the princes, and the other aristocratic families. Wang Wan said to Xiao Bei, "We're different from them. We don't need to fight for any power. We have everything we need, and we just need to do our best for Great Tang. They, on the other hand, need to compete for power with each other. At the same time, they also need to see how your uncle emperor favors them. Lu Zhou is different from other places. It's a province that is far away from the capital and has developed very well. Moreover, the officials who come here can get a sum of money when they leave the office. Therefore, Su Mingyang is not an independent existence. His appointment is not controlled by us. It's a result of competition and compromise between the officials of the imperial court. It's very important to the various forces in the imperial court to change the officials once a year. They don't care whether Su Mingyang gives them the money or how much he gives them. What they care about is your uncle emperor's impression of them in a year. They use the position of provincial governor of Lu Zhou to test your uncle emperor's thoughts. Therefore, there can only be one provincial governor of Lu Zhou, and they can't send many officials of the same rank." "Oh, so that's how it is. I thought it was a random person who was sent here. How can the officials in the capital have so much free time? What's there to compete for? They should just do their own thing. How can Uncle Emperor's intelligence system not know? If they insist on competing, why don't they compete with us? Since there's something they can't win, what's the point of competing for that little bit of power? It's meaningless." "I won't compete." Xiao Bei understood again. "Why don't you compete? Why are you competing with us, especially when you're telling stories? Don't you want to answer all the questions in the stories correctly and improve your character's level? If you don't compete, are you still willing to study hard?" Xiao Yuan retorted, "You know that my level is high, but you still dare to oppose me. Be careful that I'll teach you a lesson in the stories." "Humph," Xiao Bei said to Xiao Yuan with a hand on his waist. Competition is the driving force of social development. If everyone stops competing, their lives will only get worse. Allow others to compete. Only with competition can there be development. Zhang Xiaobao concluded. Li Longji chimed in, "That's right. Only by competing can one become smarter. Everyone wants to live a better life. The officials need power. Even the order of entry is different. The common people need to live a better life than others. Naturally, they have to work hard. If the Tang Empire wants to suppress others, it has to raise its national strength to a higher level. This is human nature, and it will never change. Your Majesty, you've rested well yesterday. Should we go to the seaside today?" Zhang Xiaobao began to arrange for Li Longji to go sightseeing. Today they would go to the seaside, visit the children's park, and explore the maze. Then they would stay there at night and visit the lighthouse closest to Luzhou to visit the lighthouse keeper. They would also go fishing on the island. As for the trip to the 100,000 mountains, it would be postponed. After all, it was very far away. When Li Longji heard that he could go sightseeing today, he waved his hand happily and said, "Let's go. Everyone advance." Xiao Bei and the other children were happy as well. They were not happy because they could go out to play. They had been playing because they could play with other children. Usually, they did not have many opportunities like this. They always played in groups of 11. They yearned to be able to interact with more children. This time, There was no need to bring more than 30,000 people with them. A few hundred guards were enough. Outsiders were not allowed to come close. Those who were slightly closer were the locals. After bringing their things, they called for Jiang Wang clan and took a carriage to the seaside pier. After they left, Su Mingyang, who was in the yamen, fell ill. He was seriously ill. His fall was not too serious, and there were no problems with his bones. It was just that he stretched his tendons, pulled his muscles, and bruises. It was a small matter. He just had to rub it with medicinal wine, and he would be fine in no time. Su Mingyang's worry came from Xiao Bei's threat. Xiao Bei had threatened him, but that was not important. What was important was that the emperor, Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan did not stop Xiao Bei, let alone say anything to comfort Su Mingyang. Su Mingyang knew very well what this meant. It meant that the matter was serious. The emperor did not intend to protect him. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were also dissatisfied with him. What should he do? Although the imperial doctor had come, he did not bring the emperor's greetings. Moreover, under normal circumstances, the emperor would give a banquet to the local officials when he went on patrol. He did not receive this treatment. Su Mingyang felt weak all over. He was sick. Half of it was because he was not feeling well, and the other half was a show for Xiao Bei and the others. He meant, "Look, I'm sick. Show some mercy. My head hurts." Did the emperor and the others do anything? Su Mingyang snorted and turned to ask the servants in his house. Chapter 11:14. Li Longji's trip was not kept a secret, and there was no need to keep a secret. Therefore, almost everyone who wanted to know where the emperor was going knew where he was going. When Su Mingyang asked, his family told him that the emperor had gone to the docks. He probably planned to have some fun there. Of course, this could only be said in private. Although many people knew that the emperor was here to have fun and to see the extent of the railway construction here, many people knew that the emperor was here to have fun. However, on the surface, they had to say that the emperor was concerned about the people and personally went to understand the situation. It was not wrong to say that. Whether it was for fun or for fun, he had to interact with the local people. Once a citizen had a grievance, he could directly tell the emperor, and the local officials could not stop him. Moreover, after the citizen told the emperor would not give the local officials any face and would interrogate them on the spot. If the official really made a mistake, the crime would be serious. Su Mingyang was also worried. He wondered if there were any problems in the process of being the provincial governor after he came to Luzhou. If there were, he reckoned that the people would definitely mention it to the emperor. His Majesty is really too much. There is no record of an emperor like the current His Majesty. When he goes out, he doesn't ask the officials, but directly asks the common people. The common people are all ignorant. What can they know? Did I do something wrong? Su Mingyang muttered and asked a concubine who was standing next to him. This concubine was beautiful. Although her status was not as good as that of the official wife, she had a different taste. The official wife was in charge of the family and had to take care of the big and small matters in the family. Not only was she generous, but she also had to be dignified. She did not have to be very coquettish. However, a concubine was different. A concubine must be beautiful, have a seductive gaze, have a good figure, know how to act coquettishly, and be proficient in the art of the boudoir. Su Mingyang's concubine was like this. "Husband, what mistake can you make? You have been doing good deeds for the local people ever since you came to Luzhou. If you really have to find fault, it's just that you don't need to spend money to eat delicious food. The wine and dishes in Ocean Cloud Restaurant are indeed delicious. I was thinking of eating them at noon to supplement your appetite. I'll wait to serve you at night." Su Mingyang's concubine didn't care if Su Mingyang was still sick. As she spoke, her body softly leaned over. Needless to say, when she leaned on him, it really had a big effect. At least Su Mingyang's body had a reaction, and his eyes had a lecherous look. He reached out and put his arm around his concubine's waist. He chuckled and said, "That's right. The dishes at Ocean Cloud Restaurant are good. Let's get them to deliver the food. It's not that I don't want to pay, but it's Lu Zhou's fault for setting such rules. It's a waste if we don't eat. Husband is bad. Su Mingyang's concubine acted coquettishly. Although Su Mingyang said that he was going to eat the food and wine of Hai Yunjian restaurant, he looked like he was taking advantage of the situation. However, in his heart, he felt a little helpless. What he hoped more was that the emperor would invite him over for a meal. Although one couldn't drink too much or say the wrong things when eating with the emperor, and there were many rules, to be able to be given a banquet by the emperor itself was a kind of grace. Even if one ate ordinary dishes and drank ordinary wine, the taste would be different. Besides, how could the dishes and wine of the emperor be bad? It was a pity that His Majesty went out to play and didn't ask him, the most senior official in this place, to accompany him. He didn't even leave a word of sympathy. The most hateful thing was that the people of the Zhang family and the Wang family could accompany His Majesty at any time. Even that child dared to criticize him in front of His Majesty. What should he do? He had really offended the emperor today. Would he be arrested? Fortunately, after he became the provincial governor, he didn't have any problems. Alas, even if he wanted to, he couldn't do anything. The entire government and local operations of Lu Zhou didn't need to go through his hands at all. If he wanted to do something, the officials of the counties over there would do it while sending a document to ask for approval or not. All he had to do was to write a few words of praise and things to pay attention to on the document, and then put his official seal on it. If he wrote the same thing as the others, they would listen to him. If they didn't, they wouldn't care at all. Even if he didn't put his seal on it, they would still do what they were supposed to do. As the provincial governor, he was no different from a decoration, like a puppet on a string. In this case, of course, he couldn't make any mistakes. Even if there was a mistake, it had nothing to do with him. Unless Xiao Bei deliberately made trouble. It was obviously the problem of the counties in the county, and then Xiao Bei caught it. Because the document had the provincial governor's seal, he directly made trouble for him. It was really possible. Perhaps Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't care, but Xiao Bei and the others were a group of children. They could do anything, and they were the unreasonable kind. Otherwise, the officials of the Tang Empire would not be so afraid of them. It's fake. Everything is fake. Whoever can get His Majesty's favor is the real one. The provincial governor, the third-grade official, it's useless. Thinking about it, Su Mingyang muttered sadly. His concubine next to him was not stupid. She knew what her husband was talking about. Although she knew, there was nothing she could do. Who asked the other party to be so capable? But what she said was not what she thought. The concubine said to Su Mingyang, "Husband, don't be angry with the child. When our child is older, let him learn well. In the future, he may not be worse than Zhang Xiaobao and the others. He can also be the top scorer in the exam and be a high-ranking official. The kind that is better than Zhang Xiaobao. Okay, let the child learn well." Su Mingyang said, but he definitely didn't think that his child could be better than Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, or even compared to Xiao Bei and the other younger children. He heard that the education methods of the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were different. The 9 children were much smarter than ordinary children. Not to mention other things, just their courage was not ordinary. When ordinary children saw the emperor and knew the emperor's identity, they were so scared that they did not dare to make a sound. Unlike Xiao Bei and the others, who dared to let the emperor hug them and fight for food with the emperor, they had become spirits. Go, let the Hai Yunjian restaurant prepare lunch. I want to eat a big banquet, the kind with 64 dishes. I can't control them, but I have to make them feel uncomfortable when I eat. Su Mingyang gritted his teeth and said. Immediately, a servant left and went to the Hai Yunjian restaurant to give orders. In the past, this was also done. Anyway, it didn't cost money. No matter what he wanted to eat, as long as the Hai Yunjian restaurant had the ingredients, they would agree to cook it. Moreover, they would cook it very carefully. Although other restaurants also didn't cost money, the taste was not as good as that of the Hai Yunjian restaurant. Therefore, they rarely went to other places to eat, unless the master was strolling on the street and was hungry and didn't want to wait. Then, he would casually find something to eat. Then, the servant would be responsible for giving him something as proof and writing a receipt for what he ate, and let the seller go to the business association to get the money for reimbursement. However, today seemed to be different from before. After the servant went to the Hai Yunjian restaurant, he came back with his head lowered regretfully. He found Su Mingyang, who was still lying there, and reported, "Master, this servant went, but the people in the restaurant said that they don't have any ingredients. They will wait until they have more. What do you think?" Bastards, a bunch of bastards. Don't have anything? How could the Hai Yunjian restaurant not have anything? Lying to a fool? Even a fool wouldn't believe it. Revenge. They are taking revenge on me. It must be Xiaobei. Without her order, how could the Hai Yunjian restaurant dare to do this? Back then, we agreed that I would obediently work as an official in the provincial capital, and I don't have to worry about anything. But now it's changed? Su Mingyang shouted angrily. After that, he said to the servant without confidence, "Let's change to another restaurant. Perhaps they really don't have anything left." The reason why he was not confident was because he had already said what he had shouted just now. The important thing was that he obediently worked as an official in the provincial capital. That way, he would not lack other supplies. However, would he be obedient? He reckoned that he would cause trouble for the Hai Yunjian restaurant when the Hai Yunjian restaurant came over. Saying those words to the emperor in front of the Hai Yunjian restaurant did not seem to be the same as being obedient. The servant left. After a short while, he returned and reported, "Master, this servant went to a few more restaurants. They all have their own reasons. In any case, they don't want to make anything for us. What should we do? Have you asked all the restaurants? Did you miss any?" Su Mingyang was afraid this time. He was afraid that the people of Luzhou would starve him to death. "Not all of them, but I don't think there's any need for me to go anymore. This is because this servant asked for a bowl of rice noodles from a person who sold rice noodles. The person who sold rice noodles also said that there was no more. However, as he spoke, he gave a bowl of rice noodles to another person who went after this servant. "Master, what should we do?" the servant asked worriedly. Su Mingyang was dumbfounded. He thought for a moment and asked, "What food do we have in the house? It's better to make our own food. We can deal with it first." The servant shook his head. In reply to Master, "We don't have any. We don't even have rice noodles in the mansion. We eat out directly or have someone deliver it to us. Hence, we don't cook at all. In the past, no matter how late it was, there were many shops in the prefecture city that were open 24 hours a day. We don't have to make our own food. Trash. You're all trash. If you don't make your own food, can't you buy some? It's better to just leave it there. In this case, we can only drink water. Then, we'll starve to death day by day? Or should any of you go fishing? Or go to the mountains to catch wild animals?" Su Mingyang said gloomily. He wasn't very worried that the people in his mansion would starve to death. Zhang Xiaobao and the others couldn't be so ruthless, but it was very likely that they would starve for a few meals. Especially now that they were out and not in the prefecture city. The taste of starvation was not good. The concubine next to him felt hungry. She swallowed her saliva and suggested, "Master, why don't we let the people in the mansion who don't go out often disguise themselves and take the money to buy food? We can spend money, but we can't buy from one shop. We have to go to several shops. Otherwise, when the sellers see that we're buying a lot, they will naturally suspect that we're buying for the mansion and won't sell anymore." Su Mingyang also couldn't think of a good idea. He nodded and said, "Go do as I said. It's best to buy some rice noodles and vegetables and leave them in the mansion. We don't know how long they're going to keep doing this." The servant obeyed the order. This time, they successfully bought enough food. Apart from the food prepared by others, they also bought rice noodles. They didn't want to be found out next time and not sell anything, so they wouldn't starve. When it was almost noon, Su Mingyang had wine and food. The clever concubine had thought of a good idea and successfully avoided the blockade by the locals. They won the battle of food control. However, Su Mingyang didn't feel the slightest joy of victory. Once again, he felt the extent of the influence of the Zhang family and the Wang family in Luzhou. Husband, why don't we not be officials in Luzhou and go somewhere else to be provincial governors in other provinces? That way we won't starve to death, the concubine said worriedly as she served Su Mingyang wine. Su Mingyang took a sip of wine and shook his head. It's useless. As long as it's in Tang, it's useless to be an official anywhere. As long as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan are willing, there's nothing in Tang that we can eat. We can't even pick up the food that others throw away to feed the animals. The people are biased towards them. Then I'll go apologize to them and admit defeat. We can't always be stubborn. Su Mingyang's concubine was clever. In her opinion, it was not a big deal to admit defeat. She always tried to please the main wife. Although she seemed to be favored, if the main wife didn't allow the master to sleep in her room at night, there was nothing she could do. Su Mingyang was quite touched. He sighed and said, I know what you're thinking, but you can't go. Not to mention apologizing, you can't even see them. Do you think they can see just anyone? The people can see them because they want to see the people. None of them is lower than me. I'll go. When they come back, I'll go sick and tell them that I haven't eaten yet. I'll ask them to pity me. If something like this happens again in the future, I'll hide as far away as possible. While Su Mingyang was eating the food that he had secretly bought, Li Longji and the others were also eating. There were many children in the children's amusement park near the docks. Some came here specifically to travel, and some came here to work. Their children were arranged to go to the amusement park when they wanted to have a couple world, or when they wanted to buy and sell goods. The amusement park also had the function of a kindergarten, so they took care of them free of charge. Today, in addition to the foreign children, the local children also had a holiday. On a festive day, the children had to have time to play. It just so happened that the holiday was given together with the summer vacation, so it was fine if it was a few days earlier. For a time, the children's amusement park became very lively. More importantly, the food that they ate at noon was different from before. The chefs dispatched by Hai Yunjian made food for them to eat. It was not a big pot of rice, but a single child could not finish a large plate of food, so it was divided into different types and placed there. The children held the plates that were distributed and lined up to get their food. The people in charge of getting food today were Li Longji, Empress Wang, Wu Huifei, Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan. The children were nervous and expectant. They had not eaten yet, but they already felt that the food was delicious. Their parents also stood in the distance and watched. They were all excited. The people who got food for them were the highest existences in Tang. Not to mention the food cooked by the chefs of Hai Yunjin restaurant. Even if the food was placed there, as long as these people got food for them, it would be delicious. Li Longji gave a child a spoonful of braised pork and a few other dishes. Finally, he asked, "How much do you eat?" "I'll eat as much as you give me. Even if I'm full, I'll eat it." The child also knew who was the one who gave him the food. His eyes were wide open and filled with little stars as he said excitedly, Chapter 11:15. The sky is full of scorching heat. The leaves curl up on the cotton. The sea is distant. People are on the shore, children or toddlers. The 4 seasons are short. There is no resentment in life. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter are all looked forward to. There is no sigh of sorrow listening to the cicadas. Spring is also joyful. Autumn is also beautiful. The sound of the cicadas in the sky. The sound of the cicadas in the evening. The sound of the cicadas together, forming their own space. There is no weariness, but listening to the cicadas. There is a light call early. There is a snore at noon, all day long. There is no break. The cicadas dance gracefully. The sound is clear. The cicadas sing. The sound of the cicadas passing through the gauze is blue by the seaside. The cicadas spread their wings and face, reflecting the blue sky on the horizon. The cicadas sing, is passed on forever, is the heart passing through the autumn cold. Perhaps singing along the riverside with the rising sun, perhaps painting the mountains with the sunset. The wind blows continuously, the water ripples, the moon bends, the stars twinkle. The cicadas never change. It is still the same as before. The sound of the waves by the seaside never stopped, accompanied by the sound of the seabirds and the movements of the cicadas on the trees, making the amusement park seem very lively. Even more lively were the children. They carried their plates and whispered to each other as they lined up and walked in front of Li Longji and the others. It was as if they wanted to stay in front of everyone for a while, but they were afraid that the children behind them would rush them. Xiao Bei led the way, bringing 11 children to squeeze in the line. Even the 2 younger children, Pan and Jun didn't allow others to help them carry their plates. The thin wooden plates could be lifted by the 2 of them, but if there was food on them, the 2 of them would probably have to work together to carry one plate. The premise was that they knew how to cooperate. The child who said that he would eat as much as he wanted would not be stuffed. Li Longji only gave him a spoonful of rice. If it wasn't enough, he could get more, but if he really ate until he was full, it would be a crime. Gij, Xiaobao, I want this and this. A child stood in front of Zhang Xiaobao and pointed at the 2 dishes in front of Zhang Xiaobao with his white, tender, and chubby little finger. Li Longji and the other 4 were in charge of the rice and the main dishes. Jiang Wang clan and Madame Wang were pregnant, so they weren't in charge of much. They were only in charge of the fruits and soup. Li Longji's work wasn't heavy either. He was in charge of giving the others rice or small steam buns. There were no wontons, dumplings, or pies today, so he was worried that they wouldn't be able to handle it. However, there were quite a lot of dishes, a total of 20 meat dishes and 20 vegetarian dishes. The children had to choose 4 out of the 40 dishes to eat. The child standing in front of Zhang Xiaobao had already gotten 2 meat dishes from Wang Wan, and now he still wanted a meat dish. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head and said helplessly, "No, you can only choose 2 dishes of vegetables. The Chinese cabbage and vinegar is very delicious, or you can eat a bean sprout. There are shredded meat in the bean sprout." The child's face was full of regret. After thinking for a while, she smiled and said, "I'm different today. I want 2 vegetarian dishes, but I want 2 meat dishes. Brother Xiaobao, you must give me the cumin mutton in front of you." "Oh, why?" Zhang Xiaobao asked cooperatively. There was a child next to him who was familiar with the situation and helped to say, "Because today is his 6th birthday. After today, he will grow up by 1 year. Unfortunately, I still have 1 month to go. I also want to grow up quickly so that I can do a lot of things for Tang Dynasty." "Well, since it's a birthday, there should be 2 more dishes. The cumin mutton is for you. What's the fish next?" Zhang Xiaobao saw that it was the child's birthday and wanted to give him some preferential treatment, so he put the dishes the child had chosen on the child's plate. "That's not enough. Double the price. I also want a coupon for Baby Candy House." The child continued to make demands, looking as if he had been given an inch and wanted a mile. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the child who was holding the plate and said, "I'm afraid you can't hold it. About Baby Candy House, you can ask Sister Xiaobei. Sister Xiaobei is responsible for giving others coupons." The child looked at her plate, rolled her eyes, and asked, "Can I give it to you once and then come back and buy more?" "1 plate per person. Where are you going to give it to? If you put more food, you can't eat." Zhang Xiaobao still talked with her tirelessly. "I'll give it to my mother. My mother likes to eat cumin mutton and fish. I don't like them. I like to eat drumsticks. I already have them. I won't put more food first. When my mother finishes eating, I'll come back and put more food. They say that babies are stars in the sky. If a mother wants a baby, she has to pick it and put it in her stomach. The little star grows up little by little and becomes a baby. It's very hard, so I can't always think about myself on my birthday. I have to think about my mother first. I want a coupon for eating cake with my family at Baby Candy House." The child explained the reason to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao didn't say anything. He doubled the amount and put more food on the child's plate, indicating that he could give the food to his mother first, and then come back for another set. At the same time, Xiaobei, who was in the line, took out a piece of paper and a pencil from her bag. She wrote "free coupon for a premium pastry set" and squeezed over to give it to the child. She didn't carry printed coupons with her. She said to the child, "Remember to find a few more people to eat with, or else you won't be able to finish it." Waiting for the child to leave happily, Xiaobei thought for a moment and shouted, "Who else is celebrating their birthday today? I'll give you a free pastry coupon. Don't lie. Those who haven't celebrated their birthday, don't worry. Starting today, Baby Candy House will launch a free birthday event. In the future, as long as it's a child's birthday, they can go to any Baby Candy House to get a gift on their birthday." After shouting, Xiaobei squeezed back to the others and said, "How is it? I'm smart, right?" "Smart, smart. Sister Xiaobei is the smartest," Pan said, blinking her big eyes. She probably didn't understand what Xiaobei had just said. With Xiaobei's shout, there really were a few children who cheered happily on their birthdays today. They also copied the child from before and said that their mother didn't come with them, so they should pack up and take them back. As for whether the food could last until they reached home and didn't spoil, that wasn't something they needed to consider. Their fathers could only sigh helplessly. Who told them to only be responsible for providing the stars and not responsible for raising them in their stomachs? A smile appeared on Li Longji's face. He felt that the child being able to say such words meant that his teachings were successful. In the future, the Tang Empire wouldn't have to worry. Just as Li Longji was feeling happy, a child stood in front of him and asked, "I should call you Your Majesty, right?" Just as Li Longji was about to nod, he suddenly thought of something and immediately said to the child, "You have to call me Uncle Emperor. All the children in the Tang Empire are our treasures. We are all the children's Uncle Emperor." "Really? Then, Uncle Emperor, I want 2 spoonfuls of rice. I'm strong and can eat a lot at home. My father says that he won't be able to support me for much longer." The child seriously said bad things about his father. How could someone who could come here to travel or do business be short of a bowl of rice? Li Longji chuckled and gave the child in front of him 2 spoonfuls of rice, then called for the next child to come over. With the words he just said to the child, all the children started calling him Uncle Emperor. Fortunately, there were not many children in the amusement park. After being busy for half an hour, all the children sat down to eat. Some had even finished eating. They sat there and did not get up. They were eating fruits in their mouths and watching the others eat. There was still a lot of food left, but they couldn't throw it away. They shared it with the other adults. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also finished choosing dishes for their mother. They also held their plates and sat together to eat. Li Longji also finished his lunch here. Surrounded by children, he wasn't worried that any of them would jump out to assassinate him. Zhang Xiaobao drank a mouthful of soup, then looked at Li Longji and said, "Your Majesty, you don't want to give Cuckoo and me a chance to rebel. You treat all the children in the Tang Dynasty as your treasures. You've become the Uncle Emperor to all the children. If we want to rebel in the future, it will be very difficult. The children will listen to you." Li Longji laughed and said, "Don't worry. You and Cuckoo are their brother Xiaobao and sister Cuckoo. If you want to rebel, they won't care. It's a family conflict. When I'm old, you can seize power." "I don't think so. When you're old, Junior will have grown up. For people like you, 80 years old is considered to be in the prime of their life." Zhang Xiaobao looked at Li Jun and said. Li Jun looked at them in confusion and said in a crisp voice, "I want to grow up quickly." Yes, grow up quickly and don't give them a chance to rebel." Li Longji was even more happy. After lunch, Li Longji and the others, except for Jiang Wang clan and Li Jun, played with the children in the amusement park. To the adults, the entertainment that the children enjoyed was no longer interesting. However, they were in a good mood to see a group of children running around. Li Longji was sweating all over. As he drank the sour plum soup, he sighed and said, "When I was young, I couldn't play with so many things. It wasn't that I didn't have the money, but that no one could think of it. The children in the Tang Dynasty are blessed. There are more than 4,000 amusement parks all over the Tang Dynasty. All the children can play whenever they want. It's really good. Uncle Emperor, when the children grow up, they will also sigh like you. They say that they didn't play with many things when they were young. As long as we work hard, the children in the future will be able to play with more things. Xiao Bei continued from the side. Oh, Xiao Bei can think of this? Let me ask you, when you grow up and the children have fewer things to play with, what will you do? Li Longji had never seen the sea in the south. When he went to Jili province, it was still winter. It wasn't fun at all. Now that he saw the sea breeze and the layers of blue waves, his mood suddenly became exceptionally good. He smiled and asked Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei took a deep breath and felt the moist sea breeze and the salty taste of the fresh sea. He replied, "When I grow up and the children have fewer things to play with, it can only mean that the development of the Tang Dynasty has become negative. Everyone who grows up is a sinner." Big Brother and Big Sister said that to judge the quality of a country system, you just need to look at the living conditions of the country's elderly and children. You don't need to look at how advanced the tools are or how high the food production is. The production of tools and food is only a matter of production technology, not a complete explanation of whether the system is good or bad, because other people can slowly learn and research the technology. But the real unifying factor is the love and hatred that the people of this country have for this country. Our Xiao Bei really knows a lot, Li Longji praised. We don't. We don't understand a lot of what Big Brother and Big Sister told us, but we've memorized it. What we didn't understand in the past, we'll understand bit by bit. When we understand, we'll tell the things we know to the younger children. Just like the cicadas that are chirping nonstop now, their lives are very short. Big Sister said that the longest one can live is less than 20 years, and that's the kind that lives in the soil. Even so, they keep flapping their wings and chirping, passing on what they know to the next generation. Winter goes, and spring comes, and the cycle never changes. Perhaps in the future, people can easily fly into the sky, but the chirping of cicadas will never disappear. In the river of time, the life of a cicada is no different from that of a human. In 10,000 years, the lifespan of a human and the lifespan of a cicada are the same. The difference is that on the surface, humans are smarter than cicadas, but the same thing is that from birth to death, we've always been pursuing. This has never changed. Civilization is also a struggle. As Xiao Bei spoke, he spread his arms and let the sea breeze flutter his clothes. This time, not only was Li Longji shocked, but even the Jiang Wang clan and Wang Shi were also shocked. Clearly, these words should not have come out of Xiao Bei's mouth. Madame Zhang and Madame Wang looked at their son and daughter. They saw the two of them holding hands and looking at the sea calmly. They could not understand how the two of them had taught their younger brother and sister. Could it be that the immortals were so powerful? No wonder the two of them had to personally take care of their younger brother and sister. If it were the two of them, they definitely would not have been able to teach Xiao Bei and the others to become like this. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan heard Xiao Bei's words, and at the same time, they felt the gazes from others. But neither of them turned around. To them, this was nothing. It was nothing more than a little philosophical thought. Many of the children of their time could do it. Some of the children could even say things like, "It's snowing, spring is coming." Besides, it was not like Xiao Bei was the only one who thought of this. Sure enough, when Li Longji was in a state of shock and wanted to ask, Xiao Bei said it himself. When we have nothing to do, we always think about other things. Also, there are a lot of stories like this in older brother and older sister stories. The more we learn, the more we think. Don't be surprised. Ambition is not dependent on age. Without ambition, you can live for 100 years in vain. Uncle Emperor, when we go out to sea in a while, you don't have to worry. You don't have to be afraid of falling into the water. We can easily pick you up. As long as there are no reefs below and no storms above, mere waves are a small matter. Li Longji was speechless. He did not know how powerful a person was when Confucius said that they were born with knowledge. But he saw the extent to which people who learned later could learn. He turned his head to look at his son and daughter. There was a trace of reluctance in his heart, but also a trace of determination. His 2 children were now very obedient and smart, but he could not bring them back to the palace. Although they would be very happy to be with the current Jun, and Pan every day, he still had to put them beside Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. The education method of the 2 people was indeed very taxing. Ordinary children would not be able to enjoy such treatment, but the results were obvious. In the afternoon, after enjoying the sea breeze for a while and basking in the sun, the 2 pregnant women of the Jun Wang clan were accompanied by guards to their home. The 2 of them could not go out to sea to the lighthouse, and there was no need for that. It was more important for them to recuperate. Li Longji and the others set off by boat to the lighthouse closest to the shore. It was about 60 nautical miles away, which was a distance of more than 100 kilometers. Although this distance was not far on land and could be reached in less than 4 hours when the road was flat, it was a different matter on the sea. It was estimated that even if they went to the lighthouse at the fastest speed, they would only arrive at night. Zhang Xiaobao did not let anyone send a signal to the lighthouse. He wanted to give them a surprise and bring them more food for daily consumption. Of course, it might be better if they could go to the farthest lighthouse, but it was too dangerous and would take too long. Li Longji still had to go to the Shirwan Mountains to wander. When they went to the lighthouse, they did not take a big boat, but a medium-sized boat that was slightly larger than a fishing boat. Only on this kind of boat could they feel the charm of the waves. If Zhang Xiaobao took his younger siblings out, he would use a smaller boat and give his younger siblings life jackets to feel the ups and downs of the waves. However, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan admitted that Li Longji's equestrian skills were very good. It was not just good, including equestrian archery. When it came to swimming, not to mention others, Xiao Bei alone could kill 10 Li Longji in the current sea. Although Li Longji swam very well in the unsinkable lake in the capital, and had also swam in a large pool without salt water, it was very easy for him to swim around. That was different. There was salt in the sea, and the buoyancy was greater than that of fresh water. However, there were also waves in the sea. Not everyone could surf and swim through the waves, and not everyone could swim back after being hit by the waves. For an expert swimmer like Li Longji, who was born in calm water, 2 waves would be enough to make him dizzy. Li Longji was also self-aware. He obediently put on a life jacket and even carried a bag with food and water on him, in case he accidentally fell and was washed away by the waves and died of thirst before anyone could save him. Uncle Emperor, don't be afraid. I'll be by your side. If the boat really capsizes, it's probably impossible for me to bring you back, but it's still possible for you to float on the water. Xiao Bei ran to Li Longji's side and sat down. The other children also had their own responsibilities. Although Xiao Yuan and the others' swimming skills were slightly worse than Xiao Bei's, it depended on who they were compared to. Gao Lishir, Wang Ju, Empress Wang, Wu Weifei, and Pan were all guarded by Xiao Bei and the others. The 2 people in charge of rowing the boat were also good swimmers. Next to them were 3 large ships, 2 gunboats, and 1 troop transport ship. They were heading towards the nearest lighthouse. Xiao Bao, the hawksbill turtle, said it can be found here. How do we find it? This was the first time Li Longji was so close to the waves. In order to ease the tension in his heart, he could only talk to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao held a telescope in his hand and looked at the sea. He didn't care about the current wind and waves. He wanted to see if there were any sharks, even though there weren't many situations where sharks capsized a boat. When he heard Li Longji's question, he replied, "After we reach the lighthouse, I'll go down and see if I can catch one. Today is my birthday. I wish my mother good health and all the best. I also wish my brothers and sisters happy." I wrote a short essay in front of it for the readers. Chapter 11:16. When the moon rose, Li Longji finally saw that it was a full moon. He felt that the moon was rising from the sea and sharing this moment with the world. At the same time, he also saw what a lighthouse looked like. In the past, he only saw paintings and small models. In the Xingqing Palace in Beijing, there was a model of a lighthouse. It was very small and made of wood. It floated in the water, and candles could be placed on it. At night, it could be seen swaying. He knew that it was a place that was specially used to guide the way. Seeing it with his own eyes today, he felt that he had been tricked. He asked Zhang Xiaobao, "Xiaobao, why is this lighthouse different from the one you gave me?" "Different? Of course, one is big and one is small. One stands in the sea, and the other is placed in fresh water." Zhang Xiaobao and Wei Wei were stunned for a moment, but then said calmly, "That's not what I meant. It's just that the lighthouse you gave me was floating on the water. This lighthouse is motionless. At first, I wondered if there were two kinds of lighthouses. One is on an island, and the other is like a ship. After all, it's not easy to find an island or a big reef in the sea. Now that I have seen the situation in the sea, I think it's very difficult to build a floating lighthouse. Even the biggest ship can't withstand the wind and waves if it stands on the sea all day long." Li Longji emphasized. What he meant was, "Xiaobao, why did you lie? If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I would have thought that there were two types of lighthouses. If I told others about it in the future and they saw it, wouldn't they laugh at me in their hearts?" Zhang Xiaobao looked at Li Longji in surprise, then at Gao Lishir. Gao Lishir nodded and admitted. "Is there a floating lighthouse?" Zhang Xiaobao asked Wang Wan. Wang Wan rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao and said, "Do you think it's a drilling platform? The quality of your gift is not good enough. The glue at the bottom is broken." "Oh, Your Majesty, did you hear that? It's not floating. It's because your management is not up to standard, so the glue on the base broke. Go back and get someone to glue it again. Remember to maintain it often." Zhang Xiaobao shifted the blame. Li Longji nodded but did not pursue the matter. He couldn't possibly return to Beijing and kill the person who was in charge of the model. Furthermore, he felt that Zhang Xiaobao wasn't good at business and didn't give him a warranty. He was now more interested in the drilling platform that Wang Wan had mentioned. He asked, "What is a drilling platform? Fighting in the sea to find fresh water?" "I'm looking for oil. Fresh water isn't worth that much." Zhang Xiaobao explained, "There's a lot of oil in the sea around Great Tang. It's much better than the oil we can find on the ground, and there's a lot more of it. We don't have to travel very far and wait to occupy other people's original land for long-distance transportation. Oh, there's oil under the sea? Quick, come out. I can pay for it." Li Longji got excited. He knew about the Ministry of Works and knew that they were refining oil in large quantities. He found it amazing that oil could be used for more than just fuel. Although he was satisfied with the oil refining technology, he talked to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan every time. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan couldn't stand the current oil refining technology anymore. They said that if the amount of oil refined was small, it would cause a lot of pollution. During the refining process, there was a lot of waste. The refrigeration technology could only reduce the temperature to 0 degrees Celsius. Many things were not collected. It wasn't that they didn't want to collect them, but they were afraid that if the oil was stored in a container, it would explode before they could collect enough gas. Not to mention the other chemical products. Another reason was that oil was not easy to extract. Other than the oil that could flow out by itself, the rest of the oil had to be dug and filled with barrels before being brought up. With such advanced technology, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan could only look at it helplessly. Li Long had always wondered if there was a better source of oil that would make it easier for people to produce it. At this moment, he was thinking about the oil under the sea. Not only him, Empress Wang, and the rest were also looking at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Gao Lishir spoke. "Xiaobao, is it more tiring than digging holes? That's why you don't intend to look for oil under the sea? It's more than tiring. I have always wanted to get oil under the sea. With this shipbuilding technology, I will go to other places and extract oil from land. Anyway, We will use pressure to extract oil from land. And it is much easier to extract oil from land. This is just a dream. Let's wait. When our descendants do this, I probably won't be able to see it. Unless countless geniuses are born in the Great Tang, and if they don't take any detours when I'm old, I'll be able to see oil and natural gas continuously being extracted from a sea. For now, let's just watch the lighthouses. The people guarding the lighthouses will not be able to guess who is coming. Zhang Xiaobao said helplessly and regretfully. He did not have much hope in extracting oil from a sea. They did not even have the simplest shipbuilding technology. If they had that technology, Tang could easily conquer the sea. At least, relatively speaking, there would be fewer deaths. In fact, they could also conquer the sea now by using countless ships and countless lives. In the era of sailing ships, it could be said that they could conquer the sea, not to mention the second generation of steam engines. With a bigger tonnage, coupled with the sail, it would be much more powerful than the Spanish. Most importantly, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan could draw a map of the ocean currents to prevent the ships from running around blindly. At the same time, they could take various precautions at sea. The only thing they had to worry about was the weather. This could not be helped. Even in the era of satellites, there were still ship accidents. As for the reefs, it was easy to deal with them. The ships did not move alone. Every time they went out, it was a group of ships. Furthermore, they could not be fully loaded. If a ship hit the reefs, they would first transfer the people out and see if they could take out the goods. The other ships would then go around and mark the reefs. Through continuous trials, they could always find a safe route. It would be even better if someone could create a sonar system. While Zhang Xiaobao was thinking about the good things in the future, the ship had already docked at the small pier of the lighthouse. The small pier could only stop medium-sized ships. Large ships could not get close, otherwise they would really hit the reefs. Even medium-sized ships had to be carefully controlled and docked at the spot where people dived. Usually, large ships would not resupply at the lighthouse. They would only use the light of the lighthouse to locate the ship at night. Occasionally, when they needed to resupply, it would be to replenish some fresh water. The fresh water was brought to the lighthouse by large ships. A specially built reservoir was placed at the lighthouse. If there was a lack of fresh water and they could not return to the port, they would replenish it. Apart from guiding the route, the lighthouse was mainly used by fishermen. The fishing boats were not very big. When they encountered storms, they would dock at the lighthouse. Then, they would place their hopes on the heavens. They hoped that the ships docked at the small pier would not be smashed into pieces by the storms. If they were really smashed into pieces, they could only blame it on their bad luck. At least they were still alive. When the ship docked, the lighthouse keeper came out with a glass oil lamp in his hand. After shaking it twice, he shouted, "Where's the ship?" One of the men rowing the ship replied, "It's Luzhou's. We just left Luzhou and are here for dinner." "Where's Luzhou's ship? Don't they know the rules?" "The weather hasn't changed." "Why didn't they bring their own food? They're tormenting us at night." The lighthouse keeper's tone was clearly displeased. He stood there and did not come forward to help anchor the ship. Small ships were tied with ropes. They would not drop their anchors. If one saw a small ship dropping its anchor when it stopped, the owner of the ship would be the biggest fool. Li Longji thought the lighthouse keeper would welcome them happily. Was the lighthouse not the home of those who worked at the sea? Why was the lighthouse keeper unhappy? Then he asked, "What's the situation?" Of the two rowers, one jumped ashore to tie the rope, the other set up the gangplank and replying to Your Majesty's question. The so-called rule is actually an unwritten rule between the people guarding the pagoda and the people who go out to sea to fish. When the ship leaves the shore, if there are no special circumstances, the ship should not come up for dinner. This is because the lighthouse keepers have to cook for them. It's tiring and troublesome. Unless the ship asks them to use the fire when they come over, they don't care. The materials for the fire and the food for the lighthouse are all brought to the lighthouse by the fishermen at sea. The rule is that whoever uses them has to make up for it. Usually, the fishermen at sea would bring more and use less than what they bring. Hence, the lighthouse has a lot of surplus items. Under special circumstances, it's used by the people who are hiding in the lighthouse and can't go out. It's like taking from the people and using it for the people. While they were talking, Empress Wang and the others had already gone up. Li Longji also stepped onto the shore, nodded, and said, "I understand. It's the same as the food stored in the trees when hunting in the mountains. It's an important place for emergency and rest. Everyone follows the same rule. They can't just leave after they finish eating." "That's right," replied Zhang Xiaobao. He was carrying the gifts for the lighthouse. They were local specialties from Xuanyang, fresh vegetables, and fruits. Under normal circumstances, the people at the lighthouse could only eat fresh food once every few days, including pork and the like. They were all brought by the fishermen at sea. They didn't bring much, especially in summer. They spoiled easily. If they didn't come out at night, they would spoil easily in the day. The people at the lighthouse usually ate ham, bacon, dehydrated vegetables, dried fruits, and canned food. Of course, this treatment was already very good for the people guarding the lighthouse. After all, the people who went out to sea before knew how difficult it was to eat outside. Even if there were sun-dried or shade-dried vegetables, they couldn't be eaten when they were brought out. There wasn't enough fresh water to soak in. Wang Ju and Gao Lishir also helped to carry some of the things they brought. The rest was left to the two people who had tied the boat to the lighthouse. Other than pork, there was also venison. All of them were fresh and kept in ice. There was even wine. The person who ran out with an oil lamp finally realized that something was wrong. There were too many people on the boat. If they were really here to fish, the boat wouldn't be able to hold too many fish in one trip. It would be full of people. "Why are there so many people?" As he asked, the lighthouse guard walked towards the dock. He wanted to see who was so stupid as to bring a boat full of people out to sea. When he got closer, he finally realized that something was wrong with the situation with the help of the moonlight. "There's a child? Which family's child came out to play instead of studying in school?" "Ha, it's me. I'm here." When Xiao Bei heard the question, she shouted and ran towards the lighthouse guard. It was her first time coming to the lighthouse, so she found it very interesting. Slow down, slow down. Watch your step. Don't fall. It's all broken stones." "Who are you?" The lighthouse guard saw a child running towards him and quickly shouted. Xiao Bei tripped and almost fell. She steadied herself and patted her chest. She said with lingering fear, "Why didn't you lay down sand? It's all stones." "You are?" The lighthouse guard came in front of Xiao Bei and waved the lamp twice. He looked at Xiao Bei doubtfully and tried to recall whose child she was. After looking at her for a while, his eyes suddenly widened. He said with a look of disbelief, "You are Xiao Bei?" "Huh? How did you know?" Xiao Bei was confused. This person was too amazing. He could actually recognize her identity when he saw her. "Are you really Xiao Bei?" The lighthouse guard pointed at Xiao Bei's bag with his other hand and asked again with uncertainty. Xiao Bei looked down at her bag and found that there was a very large rice seedling pattern on it. In the middle of the rice seedling was the word Bei. Only then did she know how the lighthouse guard recognized her. It was too eye-catching. Besides, other than the two families in Tang, no one dared to use the rice seedling pattern. "All right, I'm stupid." Xiao Bei patted her bag twice and asked the lighthouse guard, "Are you very happy?" "We're all here. Uncle Emperor, the Empress, Concubine Hui, and my grandfather are here." "Haha, why aren't you smiling?" Xiao Bei thought that the lighthouse guard would be very happy after knowing her identity. In the end, she was very disappointed. It was not that the lighthouse guard did not want to smile, but he was dumbfounded. He did not even dare to dream that the Zhang family and the Wang family would personally come to the lighthouse. They were so busy. How could they come to his place and meet him? "Old Hu, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and greet the emperor." A rower carrying a large bag in each hand came to the front of the tower and shouted loudly. The bags were still dripping with water. Ah. Good, the emperor is here? Old Hu, I greet the emperor." The lighthouse guard finally woke up. His face was still full of shock. His voice was trembling, and he was about to kneel. Xiao Bei hurriedly pushed Old Hu with his hand and said, "Don't kneel. It's full of gravel. I was wondering why you didn't put some fine sand on the ground. When the time comes, there will be the beach, the sun, and the waves. Wouldn't it be better to swim and bask in the sun? Let's talk inside. I'm here to take a look." Li Longji coughed and ordered Old Hu. Yes, let's talk inside. Old Hu repeatedly agreed. He turned his head and shouted at the lighthouse, "Everyone get up. The emperor is here. Xiao Bei and the others are here too. Don't sleep in. Get up, everyone." Whether the people inside heard him or not, the people outside didn't know. Whether they panicked after hearing him, the people outside also didn't know. Li Longji had already heard that there were 2 people guarding the lighthouse, but from Old Hu's shout just now, he found out that there was more than one person inside. Glancing at Gao Lisher asked Old Hu as if they had a tacit understanding, "How many people are guarding the lighthouse?" 4. Old Hu replied. He didn't know Gao Lisher, but it didn't matter. Anyway, the people who could come were all of a much higher status than him. Even the 2 people who came with him could be seen clearly now. They were the leaders who specialized in using large ships to replenish the various lighthouses. Although there were fishermen in charge, in case the fishermen had something to do during a period of time, there would naturally be people who were responsible for delivering supplies. I once heard that there were 2 people guarding the lighthouse. Now there are 4? Li Longji asked personally. It has changed. It has changed since 3 years ago. The lighthouse that is close to us has 4 people, and the lighthouse that is further away has 6 people. At that time, people from other places came over, saying that they were doing business, and then wanted to cause trouble. One of the lighthouse people was even killed by them. Since then, we have been on guard against all people who are not from the Tang Empire. We don't allow them to easily come to the lighthouse, and we also don't let them eat our lighthouse for free. Usually, a boat full of fish can only be exchanged for 2 bowls of water at our lighthouse. I heard the news from the lighthouse people at the front that they usually send a lot of fish and leave it at the lighthouse to prevent them from dying of thirst or starvation when something happens and they don't have anything to give to the lighthouse. Their people really died of thirst after that incident. Although they are not from the same tribe as them, it doesn't matter. As long as they are not from the Tang Empire, they have to hand over their things first and help later. Old Hu said excitedly. Perhaps it was because it was nighttime and he couldn't see the emperor clearly. So other than his previous nervousness, his heart was much calmer now. Li Longji nodded. His good mood just now had also changed. Whenever he heard that people from the Tang Empire were harmed in other places, he would be unhappy. Especially before he came, many people had died. Other than a small number of people from the Tang Empire who were directly killed, there were also people from the Tang Empire who were captured and needed to be killed. Xiao Bei also looked angry and asked, "What about now? Are they still using the opportunity of coming to the lighthouse to harm our people?" Xiao Bei had already guessed the general situation. It was like the story of the farmer and the snake, where the other party probably looked like they were asking for help. Then they would wait for the lighthouse people to let them go up, and when they were close enough, they would suddenly attack. Too bad, they were all bad people. We shouldn't help them anymore, even if we brought the things over in advance. Old Hu shook his head and replied, "No one dares to do that for a long time. The last time, the people who came looking for trouble didn't manage to escape. They were captured by our people. There were 5 of them, and they were tied to a small boat. They were sent to a place where the wind and waves were small, and they were left to dry in the sun. In the end, they were all burned to death. Now, they paid a huge price. We've directly reduced the price of the things they caught to half of Lu Zhou's price. That's 100 copper coins, but we only charge them 5 copper coins. Moreover, when they came to the lighthouse, they weren't allowed to go to the top of the lighthouse. They could only rest in a place where the wind and rain leaked out from a pile of rocks. This way, they wouldn't be washed away when the storm came. They were only allowed to enter the lighthouse when the storm was so strong that the waves could drown the pile of rocks they stayed in. Moreover, their hands and feet were tied. "Why are you only out now? Quickly, come and greet the emperor." As Old Who spoke, he saw the 3 people who came out of the lighthouse. He hastily called out to them. In truth, the 3 of them had changed into clean and tidy clothes. At this moment, they were looking around excitedly for the emperor. When they heard Old Who's movements and saw his signal, they fell to their knees and kowtowed to the emperor at the same time. In the past, Li Longji liked it when people kowtowed to him. However, he was annoyed by it now. He felt that he would have to go out more often in the future. If all the people he passed by were like this, he would waste his energy on etiquette. After he gave the order, he had the 3 of them rise to their feet. Then, he led the way into the lighthouse. The space below the lighthouse was huge. Only the observation post at the top was small. Li Longji went up to the 2nd floor. At this moment, all the oil lamps in the lighthouse were lit, illuminating the interior of the lighthouse. Li Longji looked around as he walked. From time to time, he would touch the walls of the lighthouse and knock on them with his knuckles. He nodded in satisfaction before he asked Zhang Xiaobao, "Did you spend a lot of money to repair the lighthouse?" "We didn't spend any money," Zhang Xiaobao replied. "The money was saved by the lighthouse's keepers. We agreed that the money they earned would belong to them. However, they still used it to renovate the lighthouse. We're the only one who paid for the first renovation." Li Longji's interest was piqued. He asked, apart from the wages, they earned extra money? Old Who did not wait for Zhang Xiaobao's reply. He said, "Yes, Your Majesty. We earn money from this. In the lighthouse, we have something that specializes in rearing fish and prawns. We don't let them breed. Instead, we catch them and raise them there. When there are enough of them, we'll give them to the supply ship. The supply ship will bring them back. After the price is calculated, a portion of the money will belong to us. Since we don't have anything else to do, we'll fish and prawns on the islands or the reefs. If we come across a good species, we'll rear them. Since my lighthouse is close to Luzhou, it's not enough. The people from the farthest places, especially those who come from other places, usually bring precious items with them. The lighthouse keepers keep the price low. In fact, they don't even pay 5%. If we come across good pearls, tortoiseshell, and large abalones, we'll earn a huge sum of money. This is why we're willing to trade with them. Although one of our men died, we'll allow them to provide us with items. The farthest reef is 475. The 6 men who guard the lighthouse managed to save up more than 4,000 strings of coins in a year. They bought large stones, cement, and steel bars and had their reef enlarged. Initially, it was more than 20 steps wide. Now it's about 50 steps wide. The lighthouse has been renovated as well. Even so, they still have a lot of money left. They bought carriages for their families. They're much wealthier than the average person. In the second half of last year, other people complained, so they had no choice but to switch with others. When spring comes, I'll switch as well. Old Who seemed very excited. He meant to say that it was easier to make a fortune if they switched to a farthest place. Naturally, they also had to be lucky. People from other places would be willing to trade with them if they came across valuable items. Li Longji was speechless. In his opinion, the lighthouse keepers were not willing to go to farthest places. It was not easy to go back and forth. Moreover, they would not have time to treat their illnesses. He did not expect that in the face of money, all difficulties could be solved. He actually managed to earn 4,000 strings of coins in a year. This was shocking. While they were still in shock, they arrived at the 3rd floor. There was another floor above that. Then, they arrived at the lookout pavilion at the top. It was not this high in the past, and the space was not so big. Everyone sat down. Old Who ordered someone to prepare tea. The water was already boiled and stored in a thermos so that they could drink it at any time. Drinking a mouthful of hot water would make one feel much better. Li Longji did not ask Gao Lisher to bring out his tea. He drank the tea prepared by the lighthouse. It tasted bad and had a lot of foam. After drinking a few mouthfuls, Li Longji asked, "There are 4 people in the lighthouse. What are they in charge of?" "In response to your question, Your Majesty, they're also in charge of the lighthouse. However, they usually do different things. For example, I'm in charge of cooking. My cooking is the best. When I'm not sleeping, I cook for them. When I sleep, little Chi cooks for me. Apart from fishing for prawns, we're also learning how to read. 2 of the soldiers were sent here by Lu Zhou. They were fully literate and even brought books with them. When they were not catching fish, they would train in the sea around the lighthouse or shoot at the targets on the small boats that were released from ashore. Sometimes they'll sit on the boats and shoot at the targets in the sea. They're specially sent by Lu Zhou. Not everyone has this opportunity. Only the most elite are allowed to train in the lighthouse for 2 years. A place with 6 people is 4 soldiers. I heard they'll be used for war in the future. Now, they're practicing swimming and shooting at the floating targets. Old, who could not be bothered to drink his water. There was no end to the conversation. Little Chi wanted to chime in, but he did not have a chance. As for the 2 soldiers, they sat obediently at the side with their backs straight as they waited for the emperor's orders. The 2 men who rowed the boat could not rest. They climbed to the top and took over the lookout job. Li Longji listened with great interest. He would think about it from time to time before he voiced his doubts. When he heard Old Who talking excitedly, he felt a different kind of feeling. Old Who explained the current situation of the lighthouse. There were more and more lighthouses. Whenever there was a big reef in a certain place where the lighthouse would not be submerged in a storm, Lu Zhou would send people to repair it. Then he would arrange for people to work on it. It seemed like a lot of money was spent. Moreover, it did not seem like there was a need for so many lighthouses. However, there was a benefit to having so many lighthouses. The ships that went out to sea became bolder. This was especially true for the lighthouses that were only dozens of miles apart. Once people entered the lighthouses, they felt as though they had returned home. There did not seem to be any danger in that part of the sea. The light from each lighthouse was mesmerizing at night. On the other hand, places without lighthouses would be dark at night. Not only would their eyes be uncomfortable, but their hearts would feel empty as well. None of the fishermen would want to fish there even if there was a big school of fish there. Aren't the gunships in charge of scouting for fish? If they help, they can at least send news back quickly, right? Li Longji could imagine how lonely it was to be out there. Even if the ships were slightly bigger and had a few people on board, they would still feel uncomfortable when they were far away from the range of the lighthouses. Your Majesty, the gunships will report when they see a school of fish on their way back. However, the telegrams can't travel too far. It's said that there are telegrams that can travel even farther in the capital, but Lu Zhou doesn't have one yet. The gunships can't be responsible for delivering news to the fishermen. At the same time, the gunships won't chase after the school of fish. When they return from a patrol mission, the school of fish would have already disappeared. Old Who seemed regretful when he mentioned this. Li Longji looked at Zhang Xiaobao. He wondered why Lu Zhou was not given a good radio station. Zhang Xiaobao sighed helplessly and said, "Do we have to talk about everything openly? Do we have to tell the others about the strength of Lu Zhou's fleet? The diesel engine from the Ministry of Works has already been delivered to Lu Zhou. Do we have to announce to the world that we want to put this engine on a small boat and turn it into a very fast speedboat? Can we travel dozens of nautical miles in a short time?" Li Longji finally understood what Zhang Xiaobao meant. Although it was said that the people could be made to know what they wanted, they should not reveal everything about military affairs to the people. Otherwise, it would be impossible to expect the people to keep a secret if they knew about it. A rare expression of embarrassment appeared on Li Longji's face. To cover it up, he asked loudly, "What's a speedboat?" "It's the propeller that's not good enough. It's something that can malfunction at any time. It's the one that's specially used at the most critical moment. It's the first and most advanced thing our family built. Zhang Xiaobao explained. He felt embarrassed as well. Although the item was good, its quality was not good enough. Back then, he had only built it to attract the attention of the palace. He wanted to raise his family's status in exchange for it. Li Longji finally found an opportunity to attack Zhang Xiaobao. You still have the cheek to talk about your propeller? Apart from the mysterious fan blade, the bearings you use are always broken. When I'm at Xujiang, I don't even use it anymore. I can't afford to worry about it. I'll have to repair it after 2 or 3 uses. I was having fun when it suddenly broke. My good mood is gone. You're still hoping to use it for life-saving and short-distance pursuit. Now that the technology is good, I don't see you using it. Zhang Xiaobao said confidently. Now that I don't need to play in a small pond, it's only natural that I won't use it. In the future, I'll be free to fly. When that diesel engine thing is done, let me have a look. Li Longji chuckled as he spoke. Old Hu was listening at the side, was confused. He finally understood. It was not that Lu Zhou did not have a good communication tool, but he had hidden it. It seemed like he could not tell anyone about it. Otherwise, it would be detrimental to Great Tang. He was confused. What diesel engine? What speedboat? What's a bearing? He knew he did not know, but he did not dare to ask. Xiao Bao had said to keep it a secret. The more he knew, the easier it was for him to spill the beans. Let's eat. Try the food from the lighthouse. Things that are chilled can't be kept for too long. Let's cook them, Li Longji said to Old Hu, not wanting to continue talking about the Great Tang military technology. Old Hu did not expect to have a chance to cook with so many people here. He happily agreed and promised to cook his best dishes. Then he turned around and happily went to the kitchen. Old Hu's best dishes were nothing special to Li Longji. He could eat them, but they could not compare to Xiao Bao's. In fact, even the chefs of the Sea Cloud restaurant could not compare to his. However, he still had a good time eating. After the meal, he asked Old Hu about the lighthouse in the sea. With a different dream in his heart, he found a place to sleep. Zhang Xiaobao, on the other hand, was worried. He was not worried that something would happen, but he was worried that they would have to go to the next lighthouse tomorrow, or even one that was further away. This was because Li Longji had asked Old Hu many questions before he went to sleep about whether the lighthouses at different distances were the same. Old Hu's answer worried Zhang Xiaobao. It was impossible for the lighthouses to be the same. Some waters were different, and the scenery was different. The things produced in the sea were also different. Moreover, the lighthouse they were in was surrounded by gravel. Old Hu also said that it was because of the reef that was made of gravel. No matter how much fine sand was collected from elsewhere, it would still be washed into the sea by the waves and storms. It was impossible to build a dike to stop it. However, some lighthouses were small islands surrounded by fine sand. The scenery was beautiful, and a long distance away was shallow water. Under the sun, the sand shone like gold. If one wanted to swim, one could see many small fish in the shallow water and all kinds of seabirds in the sky above. If it was not so far away, they could even build a few houses on it and settle down there. Li Longji listened to Old Hu with a yearning expression on his face. From time to time, he would ask Zhang Xiaobao if it was the same. Zhang Xiaobao was speechless. Was there a need to explain why it was called the Blue Sea Silver Sand? It was because of the beautiful scenery. There was a natural beach, floating clouds, and clear water. As expected, early the next morning, Li Longji hurriedly finished his breakfast and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "We're out here once, after all." I don't know when the next time I want to go out to sea will be. Why don't we go to 2 more places while the weather's fine? What else could Zhang Xiaobao say? Naturally, he nodded in agreement. However, he could not continue to sit on the medium-sized ship. It was easy for the rowers to die of exhaustion at their posts. When he boarded the troop transporting ship, he sent a message to Lu Zhou, asking for a supply ship. Then he let the ship sail at half full sail and slowly made its way to the small island with the beach. He would wait for the supply ship behind him to come up before the full sail was raised. Xiaobao, when it comes to sceneries, every place is different. The sea in the south is really nice. It makes people feel comfortable just by looking at it. The sky is blue, and the clouds are white. Look, there are so many white clouds in the sky. Don't they look like pictures? Li Longji held a goblet filled with ice and wine. He placed his other hand on his back as he stood at the bow of the ship. He enjoyed the sea breeze as he spoke to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao looked up at the clouds that seemed to be increasing in number and density. He said worriedly, "Your Majesty, please wait for a moment. I'll go and ask a few people. I'll come back and admire the paintings with you." Zhang Xiaobao turned around and left. He went to look for someone who was experienced at sea and asked if there would be a storm. In this era where there were no satellites, he could only rely on himself. Naturally, there were times when a person's experience was more powerful than a satellite's. If he did not keep an eye on the clouds and the data from the various stations on the ground, the weather forecast would not always be accurate. However, experienced people would be able to make a judgment based on the wind blowing and the clouds in the sky, as well as what had happened in the past during this season. Many of these people were old. When he first came to Luzhou, he relied on this group of old people to help him predict the weather. They were very accurate. At this moment, there were more than 10 old fishermen on the ship. Their job was to look at the weather. After asking around, Zhang Xiaobao felt relieved. It would rain, but it would only rain at night. Moreover, it was not a heavy rain, but a light drizzle. 2 of the old men said it was moderate rain. At the same time, some of them said it would stop at midnight, while others said it would last until the next night. Zhang Xiaobao had to choose who to believe. In the end, Zhang Xiaobao decided to look for a lighthouse tonight and planned to rest there. He could not stay on the ship. It would be best if he stayed on a small island. If there was a storm, he could abandon the ship, but he could not let anything happen to the people. What do you think? It's only a heavy rain. There's no need to be too anxious. Li Longji had not seen a storm at sea with his own eyes. He spoke to Zhang Xiaobao based on his own conjecture. Zhang Xiaobao felt that it would be great if there was a storm. He wanted Li Longji to see if it was just a heavy rain. "Your Majesty, it's different from the heavy rain you saw in the palace in the capital. When a storm comes, the waves can be dozens of meters high. Don't you see that there aren't many houses at the docks? It's not that they don't want to build houses in places with good scenery, but they can't withstand the torment. If there is a hurricane, many of the ships at the docks will be broken. Small boats have no resistance in the sea and can fly up in an instant. If there is a chance, I'll let you see it. Look at the clouds. There are also seabirds. There will be seabirds that will land on the ship. Just sprinkle a few grains. It's very interesting." Zhang Xiaobao knew how serious his words were. Li Longji was only imagining it. Those who had never experienced it would never understand the power of the sea. Li Longji did not think too much about it after hearing Zhang Xiaobao's words. Instead, he looked forward to meeting them. He felt that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had the ability to ensure his safety. Even Zhang Xiaobao himself did not think that he had the ability. However, he was curious about what Zhang Xiaobao said about seabirds landing on the ship. He asked, "Aren't birds afraid of people? As long as you don't hit them, they'll be fine. Look, there are seabirds on the mast now. They need to rest as well. Oh no, come back. Shui Yun, you're not allowed to catch seabirds to eat." When Zhang Xiaobao looked up at the mast, he suddenly saw a flock of eagles flying in the distance. The red and white eagles were too dazzling. On the way here, Shui Yun and her family had nothing else to do. Therefore, they tagged along and helped to scout the surroundings. They also caught a lot of prey. When they arrived at Lu Zhou's place, he arranged for them to stay in the tallest building behind Ocean Cloud Inn. He did not expect them to tag along. Based on the way they flew, it was clear they wanted to use force to prove who was in charge of the sea. After shouting, Zhang Xiaobao waved his arms vigorously. He knew Shui Yun and the others could see him. The seabirds on the mast, who usually ate fish, and now had a chance to taste grains, saw the eagles flying in the distance. They did not even have time to rest. They flapped their wings and fled. Shui Yun seemed to know what Zhang Xiaobao meant. Perhaps she did not intend to kill anyone. She looked at the seabirds disdainfully and led her family to land on the mast where the seabirds were resting. Then she called out to Zhang Xiaobao below. "Your Majesty, the grains won't do. Please feed the seabirds some meat later," Zhang Xiaobao said to Li Longji, who was also looking up. Li Longji, Little Bei, and the others, who had slept very late last night, heard Zhang Xiaobao's call. Shortly after, they pushed open the cabin door and rushed out. They opened their sleepy eyes and waved their arms happily as they greeted Shui Yun and her family. "Come down, come down. Shui Yun, I'll give you something delicious. Come down and land on the railing. I'll give you fish to eat," Little Bei shouted with her arms outstretched. Shui Yun and her family did not obediently land as she expected. Instead, they called out a few times as if they were communicating something. Then, the Hong Yuan spread its wings and dived into the sea. It was so fast that when its whole body was about to plunge into the water, it flapped its fiery wings and its body suddenly slowed down. However, it was only relatively slow. Then, the Hong Yuan scooped up the water with its claws and flapped its wings, rising into the air again. In her claws was a big fish more than 1 meter long. It looked scary. The fish was not dead yet. It shook its tail vigorously, but could not break free. Is the Hong Yuan Shui Yun is looking for an eagle looking for food in the sea? Zhang Xiaobao looked at the Hong Yuan's skillful movements and guessed. Probably. Li Longji's gaze was fixed on the fish as he muttered, "Probably." Carrying the fish, the Hong Yuan flew toward the ship and spread her claws on the deck. The fish she caught finally broke free, but was unable to return to the sea. With a bang, it smashed onto the deck and stopped moving. It was either knocked unconscious or fell to its death. The Hong Yuan landed on the mast and called out to the 11 little eagles. The 11 little eagles immediately dived down from the mast. 2 of them dived into the water and flapped their wings a few times before flying up again. They brought with them countless water droplets, but failed to find anything. The other 9 eagles directly stopped when they were about to dive into the water. Then they flapped their wings and flew up, not daring to enter the water. Seeing this scene, Little Bei shouted at the 9 eagles, "Cowards, what are you afraid of? You won't drown if you fall. Did you forget what you did when you learned to fly? I know that you fell into the small lake between the clouds and the water restaurant several times." Little Bei was talking about the place that was prepared for Shui Yun's children. In the beginning, Shui Yun did not let the children fly immediately. As a result, when they gained weight, there were always problems when they learned to fly. They kept falling into the water and were rescued by others to repeat the previous actions. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.